TikTok, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. We have a should be an interesting show. I'm not entirely clear on the details of the coins argument. I know Jay's been using this for years, and it's actually it is something that's kind of interesting. If you didn't know and you said, hey, Islam took over all these areas and stuff like that, and we don't have the documents anymore because the documents are written down or they're passing on information orally, and whatever documents they had, those eventually rotted and so on. People didn't copy them enough, so we don't have them anymore. But coins last. So I would expect these to be. I would expect the coins of the time to be Muslim coins with a crescent moon and star and something like that, or something along those lines. But it's not so. I've heard from Jay, but I've never looked into this. So we're actually going to look into this right now. We're going to go ahead and take a look at it. And with me, I have two people who aren't persuaded by the argument, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to assess everything right now. So I will set myself at a 50-50. Not on whether Muhammad existed. I'm not 50-50 on that. Although as evidence pours in, my confidence in various positions can change over time. So I could be like 99% sure that something is true, and a bunch more evidence can come in, and I go, well, I'm kind of 50-50 now. Which I kind of had that reaction after reading Robert Spencer's book and actually debating him on. I was kind of like, I'm not as confident in Muhammad's existence anymore. But that sort of shifted back up again in the following years. But that's how it works, guys. That's how evidence works. You got your position, and then more evidence comes in, and you need to update your confidence in various hypotheses based on new evidence coming in. So as far as whether these coins actually pose a problem for the standard narrative, as it were, about Muhammad, I will be undecided, but we will check this out. So, Thaddeus, how you doing?
I am doing as well as could be expected. Not what we're going to be discussing today, but it is the elephant in the room. Jay Smith put out a long video this morning attacking me personally, among other people, Mary as well, Jai and Daughter of Christ. I took the brunt of it. So in light of that, I'm doing as well as could be expected. We'll discuss that at a later date. I just ask that people take approach the material today that we're presenting today with an open mind. A lot of things are being said about me which are not true, so don't prejudge the argument.
Hold on. What are people saying about you?
Oh, well, I mean, it depends on if you mean Jay or his fans or whatever, but I'm accused by his fans especially. I'm being accused of being a grifter.
What the heck did you do?
Of not knowing anything.
Hang on, what did you do? Guys, keep in mind, I have not seen Jay's video from today. Jay is one of the legends of counter dawah and so on, Christian apologetics, Christian polemics, and so on. He was holding it down at Speaker's Corner for decades, and he inspired a lot of people who came after him and so on. So, but what the heck did you do? I know you posted the coins video that we're about to go through.
Yeah. So it was a very short version. Mary had a debate with Robert Spencer. Some people got quite upset about that debate, including an individual whose name is Mel. Mel is one of the people who Jay gets information from. Mel took that, for some reason, even though he was never mentioned and it was never about his argument, for some reason he took that debate very personally. He started attacking Mary and
wait. The Mary's debate with Robert?
Yes. Mel took that very, very personally, and said that I was calling him names by saying Muhammad mythicist, which is just an academic term, and that I was like attacking him.
Hang on. He has a problem with the term Muhammad. Like, isn't that exactly how it should be described? Yeah.
Yes, because he says that that by doing that, I'm doing something sleazy and claiming that he is spinning myths. but that's not what Muhammad myth. It's an ordinary academic term, and that started him off into this complete meltdown. He had a meltdown about a slide that I had that talked about the sources, the fact that I take the normal view that when people in the ancient world use words to describe, ethnonyms to describe other people groups, they don't use modern 20th century American terms. So when they say Saracen, they mean Arab, and they say so. When they say Tayyaye, they explicitly explain in one source that that's identical to Arab for them. We call the Arabs Tayyaye. And his theories are dependent upon not taking the sources with the way that they're meant and making all these distinctions that aren't there. And even the ancient people, like they say, we mean this. And Mel's like, no, they don't. And whenever I had a graph that categorized things according to how they actually meant it, he was extraordinarily furious about that, just furious at me. So it's been bad since then.
Yeah, for the record, everyone, if I had to describe the view that Muhammad never existed and needed a term for it, Muhammad mythicism or Muhammad mythicist for a person would be the accurate. That's what it's called. That's what it would be called. So what you just said, it reminded me of when I called this a conspiracy theory. Jay and Robert both have a problem with calling it a conspiracy. It's like, what do you, it's like, I called it the mother of all conspiracy theories. You're saying that a guy or a group of guys said, hey, we're going to invent this entire history of this guy, or piece together kind of Frankenstein other stories and invent this new religion for our purpose. That's a conspiracy. It's a bunch of people conspiring to do something. Now, guess what? That doesn't mean it's false. Calling it a conspiracy does not mean it's false. There are and have been numerous times conspiracies. There are numerous conspiracies that are happening right now. What is that? It's a bunch of guys getting together, a bunch of people getting together and say, hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do this. Let's dupe people. Okay, that's a conspiracy. That happens. So calling it a conspiracy theory, it's a theory about you're explaining something by appealing to a conspiracy. That's what it's called. Why would you? I don't know why you'd object to that. Anyway, but apparently we'll have to ask them what to call these things. If these things, no, we're not. I'm not budging off that. It's a conspiracy theory, and the position should be called Muhammad mythicism. Okay, I don't know what else to call it. That you're just playing with words if you don't agree to that. So.
Yep. So just to finish, I tried to resolve things in private with Mel. He ended up blocking me, and then he went.
Wait, what the heck have you been doing behind the scenes, man?
He called me both of us semi-Muslims. He called us
Muslims. He called us Muslims.
Jealous. We called us all kinds of things. I'm like, dude, I have a problem with your arguments.
In public, I might say.
Feeding Jay. You are telling Jay to say things that are completely untrue and have no basis in reality or fact. I have a problem with that. I would love for Jay to be a true hero in every way. That's what I want. I want to have, elder statesmen, people that we can look up to and admire and everything else. That is what I want. I take absolutely no pleasure. And I have been like kicking this around for 4 years. And it's just reached this level where the claims are just so outrageous and they're getting so much attention that they need to be addressed because they're misleading people into saying things that are so easily provably untrue that they make Christians look either stupid or dishonest if they use these arguments. And that's not okay to teach people things that if they walk up to a Muslim and say it, like that Arabic came from Aramaic, the Quranic Arabic came from Aramaic, like they'll call you an idiot. And I don't want that to happen to people.
BTF says, didn't he apologize? Or do you not forgive?
No, he never apologized to me.
Mel did not apologize. No. He didn't apologize to Mary, and he didn't really apologize to me. He's like, if my post bothers you, I'll delete it.
Yeah. And then he just called himself Jesus in a newest post. He says that he is like Jesus who stumbles with the cross and you should wipe Jesus's face and stuff kicking him. So he called himself Jesus. And I'm like, Mel, come on.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't compare yourself to Jesus on the cross. Especially on the cross. Come on, man.
It's
okay,
bad.
So let me go ahead and say, one, I believe Muhammad did exist. I accept sort of the general Muslim outline of the life of Muhammad and so on. I agree that there are some problems with the historical reliability of the sources, and so tons of stuff is open for wide open for doubting the sources and so on. And I am totally 100, as I've been saying for years, I am totally fine with people running an argument claiming that Muhammad never existed. And in order to sort of defend that, you kind of have to present a better alternative, an alternative explanation, which is what I think Jay and Robert have been trying to do. We need to account for the rise of Islam and belief in Muhammad in a way that is more plausible than the Muslim story. I'm totally fine with that. Why? Because it's kind of new. Sometimes you just have to run arguments. You just have to run arguments and see how far they get. So I'm a total fan of questioning the Muslim sources, showing how horribly unreliable they are, and even getting to a point where these are so unreliable, we don't trust anything you guys say because you have a crap methodology, and maybe Muhammad didn't even exist. Totally fine with that, but you got to be accurate. And if you're spreading claims that aren't true and you're presenting them as good arguments to Christians, we don't want to do that. That's dawah. Right? That's what dawah guys do, right? They'll make up something about perfect preservation of the Quran. It'll explode in popularity all over the world until you get hundreds of millions of Muslims believing the exact same lie. And then when someone comes in and exposes it, then it's like shaking everyone's faith and so on. We don't want to be the people who do that. That's I called that, I named that Islam's 99-1 rule back in the day, that if a Muslim speaker like Zakir Naik is speaking to a crowd, he knows the vast majority of people in his audience, the vast majority of his listeners are not going to go and investigate this. So he can say anything he wants, and he can either deliberately deceive, which he does, or he can just be incredibly sloppy. He doesn't have to be careful. He knows he doesn't. It doesn't matter. The vast majority of people are just going to mindlessly go along with anything he says. And the random person who actually investigates it and finds out that it's false, who cares, right? You've deceived a huge mob, right? So that's been the methodology in Islam since the beginning, if we accept the historicity of Muhammad, as we do here. But that's been the methodology in Islam. When Muhammad starts saying, "Oh yes, I'm in the scriptures of the Jews and Christians," he's talking to a bunch of pagans. They don't know what's in the scriptures of the Jews and Christians. So he can get away, and no one there is going to be able to check what he says. And eventually, if they do check what he says, they ask they can't read Hebrew. So how are they going to know? They're going to ask the Jews, "Hey, is Muhammad in your book?" "Oh, he's not." "You're lying then, because we know he's in your book because Muhammad says it," and so on. And so it's a position where you can't even prove this guy, you can't even prove him wrong, and so on. So the point is, that's how Islam is. And even after the time of Muhammad, the focus has been on unity being more important than truth. And so that's when you see the Caliph Uthman gathering all the Qurans and burning them because people had different Qurans and they thought they were ready to start fighting over them. So it's better to just order everyone, to have the power, to order everyone, to hand everything over, burn it all, and pretend we're all on the same page. We do not want to be like that, guys. If you're putting an argument out there, on the internet to tons and tons of people, Christians and non-Christians, you are submitting your argument for public scrutiny. And the idea that you would not, as a Christian, if you think an argument is bad or even deceptive, you shouldn't respond to it, go to a different channel because... Matter of fact, go to a dawah channel. You'll be better off. You'll be better off in Islam. All right.
So before we get in, I do want to say that Mel is in the chat. He says that he did apologize. I didn't interpret it that way, but if he says it's an apology, he apologized to me. I'm willing to accept that. However, in the video released this morning on Jay's channel, I was attacked numerous times by both Jay and Mel. And he hasn't apologized to Mary either. And he had me blocked. I guess he unblocked me in order to be able to engage with me in this chat. But he still has Mary blocked So
he still has me blocked right now. And remember, he wigged out on me first and said I was being an evil person for using the normal academic term Mohammed mythicism. And like that was a horrible attack on him, even though I wasn't even talking to him. So what you gonna do? All right.
Yes. So,
so I just want to say I accept his apology for the previous comments. And I'm happy to have discussions with him or ignore him, right? He asked me to ignore him, and I've done that. I haven't posted anything else on his channel. I saw this morning I was blocked because my old comments no longer appear, but you know, it is what it is. I do need to look at it from time to time to see the arguments that are being made. He called this stalking previously. I'm not stalking you. It's a public YouTube channel, and you're putting you say you're putting out material that you want feedback on. And I tried to give you friendly feedback. I never once called you any names. Whatever problems you may have with Mary, I didn't do those things. And you decided that you didn't want to engage with me, so I didn't engage with you anymore.
And I just want to point out, I'm fine with Christians having disagreement and even Christians being kind of heated. And in my experience, the people who continue going after Islam aggressively tend to be aggressive people, because as soon as you start criticizing Islam, you get bombarded with like death threats and insults and we'll do this to you and we'll do that to you. And you kind of catch it from every direction because I told people this was my experience early on, and people don't know how good they have it right now. You go back to 2007, 2008. If you're a Christian and you criticized Islam, one, you got blasted by Muslims. They're like, oh, we're going to kill you, or here's what we're going to do to your wife. Here's what we're going to do to your mother. Here's what we're going to do to your kids and stuff. So you had that. But also then you had atheists. How dare you criticize Islam when you're religious too? Your religion is just as stupid. You have no business criticizing any religion. You're getting blasted by atheists. But then you're getting blasted by Christians too, going, because back then it was, you should never criticize a person's religion because you're supposed to be loving, and it would hurt their feelings if you criticize their prophet, and so that's not loving, and so you just caught it from every single direction. The people who kind of endured through all of that were people who you can't push them around, but with threats or anything else. But those tend to be pretty aggressive people who don't like to take a lot of crap, and you can't push them around. Well, guess what? You got a bunch of people like that. Those aren't the people who always work well together. Why? Because if they disagree with something, they just dial it up. It's like they feel free to, no, you're wrong, and I'll tell you why you're wrong, and that's a stupid point and stuff like that. And then everyone starts getting offended. And so, but it's kind of a personality type thing. So I grew up in a West Virginia trailer park. You could have a disagreement with someone and just instantly be in a fight and then hug afterwards and stuff like that. And so, criticizing here and there, or even a little name calling and then making up afterwards, I'm totally fine with all that. My main concern is making sure that the arguments are good. And I think that the Muhammad mythicists, if I may call them, have some important points about just how sketchy a lot of Islamic history is. That doesn't mean that all their arguments are good. And if they're putting out their arguments as something that other people should be using, that Muslims should be taking seriously and causing them to doubt Muhammad, and that Christians should be using in polemics against Islam, they should be good arguments. And the only way to find out if they're good arguments is to kind of take a closer look at them and examine them and evaluate them.
Yeah, and that's what we hope to do today, right?
Exactly. And if anyone's offended by that, how dare you question this argument? I don't know what you're expecting, but you need to not be saying that, because that is terrible. Like, just imagine, we could be exactly like the Dawa guys and just make things up, right? If I were to make something up, if I were to come out tomorrow and post a video and go, the latest research by Professor Uppingthorpe at Oxford University, he declared, after all his research and compiling all the data, that there is 100% certainty of, and then some Christian claim and so on. I suppose you look it up and you're like, there is no Professor Uppingthorpe. What the heck are you talking about? You're just making this up. Should you just let it go for the sake of unity and say, oh, we don't want to criticize because then we'll be like the Dawa guys and we'll have like the Dawa wars? No, if I make something up, by all means, call me out on that. And if I try to make a rule that you can't criticize what I'm saying, do not trust me anymore. Do not trust me anymore. So with that said, Jay has been circulating some arguments. I've said, I'll say it again, I'm all for circulating genuine, good information that calls into question even the historicity of Muhammad, but we have to see whether these arguments are actually good. All right. So anything before we jump into this particular topic? So we're just focusing on one topic, which is the coins argument, right?
Right. And I do have a whole bunch of other coins that also go against his narrative. In this video, there are only 2 presented.
What do you mean coin? Like you've got a pocket full of quarters or something like
Like
that?
I went to 2 different, a book by an expert on Arab Byzantine coinage, read the book, and then another expert who did early Arab coinage and looked at their materials, and another online catalog as well of later coinage, including Crusader coins. So I have looked at a good deal of coinage.
So you're saying there's more than what we're about to look to.
Even more.
Okay, so the coins argument. Before we jump into this, the coins argument. As far as I've never really looked into it in detail, but just tell me if I'm getting this right. The argument is something along the lines of, if Muslims are conquering all this territory and so on early on, then the coins they're putting out and using should be Muslim coins, and whatever else happens, they should not be using coins that have like a cross on them or something like that, because they would have considered that horrible. And therefore, if we go and we examine coins of the time and we see that they have crosses on them and they're not Islamic coins, then that basically calls things into question and suggests that these people were Christians, some kind of Christians early on, and not Muslims. Am I getting that correct?
That's part of it. There's also one other very important point. The other very important point is that J. Smith says the only early coins are cross coins. There are no coins that do not have crosses on them early on. So that shows that they begin as Christians because they produce these cross coins. And his source, Oleg, goes even farther to say that they imagined themselves like the clients of the Byzantines because they put Byzantine emperors on them. But J. Smith himself does not make that claim. That's only the source deep behind what he's saying. He says that. And so if it is not true that they only have cross coins and have plenty of other religious imagery of different religions, then any argument that they're Christian goes out the window. So...
any additional thoughts on that before we jump into things, Thaddeus?
Nope. I think Mary did that well. Jay has added arguments over time, but the coins is one of his oldest arguments for sure. And I think that a lot of his interpretation of other sources and whatnot is based on his understanding of the coin. So this isn't just like some trivial piece. This is very fundamental to Jay's overall position.
It's basically the cornerstone of everything.
Okay. If this is the cornerstone, because I mean, I would, if we were to look at the coins of the time when it's supposed to be Islamic areas and it's a bunch of stuff about Jesus and the cross and so on, I would regard that as some level. I wouldn't regard it as a ton of support, but I would regard it as some kind of confirmation, some degree of confirmation. I wouldn't view it as decisive because I would think of it like this. Like if I take a $20 bill, why is that $20 bill worth $20? And it's not because it says the United States of America or because it was printed over in this place or this or that, and it has nothing to do with the serial number. The reason it's worth $20 is because we agree that it's worth $20. That's why it's worth $20, right? Other than that, if we didn't agree on that, it's a worthless piece of paper. So we kind of have to agree on it. So, if you had some new group that's invading and taking over, it's kind of a bad idea both for them and for other people if you start making your own money, because how do you know this group is going to last? And if you're the group and you're printing your own money, you need other people to accept the worth and value of your money, or you can't trade with them. They're going to be like, get that crap out of here. What is that? What is that meaningless piece of metal you've got there? I don't care about that stuff.
What if I told you? Point there. What if I told you that we have 2 different Christians who basically said that they couldn't change it, because even though they wanted to, even though they're cross haters, they can't change it because the people won't, because the power of God and everything else, but in reality, because the people won't accept it. And a third testimony. So, yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. But
Okay.
yeah, important point.
So it's on Thaddeus's channel, but it's a video of Mary going through the coin argument. So we're going to take a look at that. Let's just take these first couple super chats because some of them might be related to our introduction to the whole topic here. David, you were right about Winger. You're darn right. I've been right about everything I've said about that guy. I lost interest after he made a 3-hour video attacking Michael Brown. Well, you definitely don't. I mean, people are always free to criticize and so on, but not Mike Winger. We should be making videos about him. You guys are awesome. This is true. The Maronite Chronicle says Muawiyah printed the coins out of necessity. Don't know if Mary and Thaddeus mentioned this.
Yes. And Jay Smith knows of this, and he excuses it and says that it doesn't mean what it says it means. Like, he didn't mean it. That's what he says. So that's one of four testimonies from the period.
Chris here says, Salam al-Masih, Dizzle, Thaddeus, and Mary, Yeshua Akbar. Hey, Chris, I know you said you messaged me about jumping on your show. I've been busy preparing for my new Al-Zut video coming out tomorrow, but actually doing some crazy research that into a bunch of sources that Inspiring Philosophy sent me. So I haven't been paying a lot of attention to stuff, but remind me if I forget, send me a reminder after tomorrow because that video will be up. So I'm gonna record that late tonight and edit it and post it, and then that little project will be done with. See, David, we can discuss Muhammad's historicity without mentioning his sex life, weirdo. But we know where his semen came from, Robert. That's true. That's a reference to. And see, keep in mind, right? I think that debate with Robert is like that's how it should be going. One guy wrecks the Muslim sources and say we can't trust this at all. The other guy says, of course we can trust it. Look at all this embarrassing material. No one would make this up. That's my preferred method of dealing with this issue. Has there been any Quran written chronologically? I tried reading it at the store and immediately got lost. I'm assuming someone has, but you can always just look up. No one's done that?
Well,
because you have to take apart. Well, it depends. You can do it surah by surah, but you have to dismantle surahs and put them in other orders.
Some verses. Sometimes it'll say this chapter revealed this time, except for this passage and that passage, which are from a different time period.
But even then,
but chronologically, it could mean two different things, right? It could mean the order of the events in the narrative, or it could mean the order of revelation, which are different things.
Oh, that could be three. That could be three different Qurans. The standard one now. Quran. one that's arranged like the Bible, where you have starts with creation and then goes all the way to the end. But then and then the order of revelations. Yeah, we need something like that.
I'm trying to do revelation of order, but it is massively difficult. There's so many things that are just like, well, it's in this chunk time period and this piece here from this one and this. It's a mess. Sorry, it's not easy.
I think that's funny. I tried reading it at the store. I'm not going to buy those things. I'll just sit here and read it standing in Barnes and Noble.
You can get it online. You don't have to get it.
You can get Qurans online, man. You can read the entire Quran online. And you could look up chronological Quran. There's all sorts of disputes about certain things and so on. But kind of in general, there's agreement on a lot of the big time frames because you have wars and battles and things like that in there. To use as reference. Chris here says, I know how long Mary was arguing with responding. The original Quran-only Christians stand behind Mary, Yeshua Akbar. That's good to know.
Thank you.
What do you think about pre-Islamic Allah and the Kaaba being a parallel to the unknown God among idols in Acts 17? I would consider it more in line with great is Artemis of the Ephesians. Look, we have this idol. How dare you? Seems more like that. Oh, you mean pre-Islamic?
No, the pre-Islamic Allah was Baal. He was
just an ordinary. Yeah, he's just an ordinary god. That's equal to many other gods.
He is just like every other pagan god.
What is the Islamic belief of creation? Genesis? No, you've got a bunch of stuff about creation in the Quran and the Hadith and so on. So plenty of that there. But yes, a lot of the stuff is just taken from what he heard from Jews and so on. And the Spanish dollar was legal tender in the U.S. until 1857. You see, this proves that everyone in the U.S. was Spanish before 1857. All right, we ready to jump into this?
Yep. Just one thing I wanted to say, if you could, I'll put the link in the chat, but if you could go over and give the original video a like, we were trying to get that in the algorithm so more people see it. So I put it in the chat right now. If people can go over there, give it a like, maybe let it play in the background, I'd appreciate it. I've never asked that for that before, but this is Mary's first video, and I'd really like to see it do well.
Shouldn't we find out if it's a good argument before spreading it all over the place?
No.
Oh no! Everyone, Thaddeus. Yeah, if it's on Thaddeus's channel, we don't evaluate it. We can't question it. We just have to share it.
No. That's fair. At the end, if you liked the video, go back, like it, and let it replay. How's that? Fair?
One second. I'll add the video to the description, so we could just tell people to go to the description. Mary's video. Watch and share. I'll preemptively put watch and share Mary's video, but if we have a reason, then I can change.
But if
that
you're like,
say,
crap, you can delete that later.
No, I'll just say,
what is she talking about? She's making this all up. You could just say, Mary, shut up, and then.
No, I'll just put don't on there. I'll just add don't to the front of that. Don't watch.
Okay, there you go.
Awesome. There we go.
So that'll be good. All right. So did that work? Just make sure that worked here. Let's see. Sometimes I put the link in the description. It doesn't actually work. This coin changes everything you know. Okay. All right. We're good. We're good, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So I think I'm all squared away as far as got the description there. All right.
Mary ran away.
That's not good. You see, she's running from the truth. She can't answer the powerful responses we're about to use. And here we go.
This is the coin that J. Smith believes you would never see, and soon you will learn why it's been hidden all these years.
Hold up. So you're saying this is a Muslim coin?
Looks like a pretty Muslim coin on the back to me there. Looks like it says Muhammad Rasul Allah on the back to me.
Who knows what any of this says?
Yeah, it's just a bunch of squiggles.
But wait a minute. If Muhammad if Muhammad's just the word for Jesus, then it would be Jesus is prophet of Allah, right?
If that were true,
or just God, I guess, right?
Because
Allah is just a generic term for God in Jay's theory. So,
all right, let's see what we got here.
J. Smith says many things about Islam that are not only untrue but are quickly disproven as soon as they are examined.
You just dialed that up to 10 that quickly?
Yep.
It's the hook. It's the hook.
It's the hook. I want people to keep reading. It's the hook.
Okay, I see it from a hook perspective. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. That makes sense. You want to go hard for your hook. All right, let's see.
Coins are brilliant because coins
don't have intelligence, Jay. They have no IQ. They can't be brilliant. I'm just kidding. We know what you're saying. I'll go back. I didn't money.
About Islam that are not only untrue but are quickly disproven as soon as they are examined.
Coins are brilliant because coins don't disintegrate, they don't deteriorate. They're as pristine today as usually the day they're minted.
This establishes a pattern for J. Smith. The idea that coins are important because they don't corrode makes a good story, and so J teaches it, even though it's obviously untrue to anyone who has ever visited a museum of ancient history and seen the corroded coins in a collection there.
They're so good, in fact, because they give a huge amount of information. Because of the fact that the rulers did not have television or radio or newspapers to announce when they came to power, what would you use? You would use coins to do that announcement.
So here, it's more like an exaggeration, right? Like you get the point. Like a coin will last longer than a piece of paper or something like that. Lasts much longer. But the idea that they don't corrode. I have 3 Tiberius denarii, And I have one that's like that I paid a ton of money for because it's like really it's called uncirculated. Means this thing didn't seem to get around at all. Like it was someone had a bag full of them and buried it to hide it from someone, and then they got killed or something, and then never came. So no one ever came back for it, and then people found it a few years ago and so on. So there you can get some really nice coins, but generally they look pretty bad. Anyway.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is not our criticism, right? If this was the only thing that Jay said, we would have made it a point. But it establishes a pattern where he's constantly exaggerating things and telling stories to fit the narrative that he's trying to sell.
So, and notice what he said just now, that you don't have newspapers, so you find out who your ruler is because he makes new coins about himself.
Okay, so if we took out the exaggeration, what we would say is coins last longer than lots of other materials, and therefore you can learn some stuff from coins. And then you could also say you can learn things if you were just no exaggeration, you can learn things about various rulers and stuff like that based on some
you
coins.
Can often learn about rulers with coins. Totally true. Okay. Often learn about rulers with coins. But what he's going to say about them, that they are the announcement that all rulers make of their rule because there were no newspapers back then, is not a supportable statement.
Well,
and I'll give reasons why.
Well, how do you explain the new Trump $1 million bill then?
Oh, man. Got me there. All right.
I backed it up a little bit so I don't interrupt.
They're so good, in fact, because they give a huge amount of information. Because of the fact that the rulers did not have television or radio or newspapers to announce when they came to power, what would you use? You would use coins to do that announcement, because everybody touched coins. Everybody would use it in commerce, and that was the best way to get that information out to the populace.
This is a statement by Jay for which he offers no evidence because it is simply not true. Imagine a scenario in which, to find out you have a new king, a message has to go out from the capital, reach the local mint, the mint needs to carve a new die, then strike new coins, and then these coins have to get into casual circulation, and you have to notice there are coins with new pictures on them. Then you read the name on these new coins and discover you have a new king. J. Smith speaks with confidence, but without substance. Coins were issued by authorities that had prestige to back up the coin's valuation. Rulers lent their images to coins to show the coins to be trustworthy, and rulers likewise gained prestige by being able to strike coins people were happy to use. So what happened when a kingdom lacked the prestige to inspire confidence? They'd mint coins imitating powers that did inspire confidence. Here is an Anglo-Saxon coin that attempts to imitate Heraclius's true cross coins. It was almost certainly produced by pagans, and it was certainly produced for circulation among pagans. The letters are nonsense. These are illiterate kings of an illiterate people. Here.
Go ahead and break down everything for us, Mary.
All right. So if you already have a prestigious government that everybody trusts, that they believe in the currency and they happily accept it, then you can mint your own coins and you can have this mutually reinforcing prestige. So you can use it to create the imagery of your kingdom, the imagery that you want to propagate that even increases the prestige more. And also, again, by having your image on there, you get more prestige back to yourself, your own program, and things like that. So it is a mutually reinforcing system of imagery once you have prestige and trust. But if you are from a kingdom that doesn't have its own authority, that doesn't have its own prestige, that doesn't have its own legitimacy, that is widely recognized by the people who are going to be using this coinage, you will usually use the coinage of someone who will have this prestige or legitimacy. And usually, it's whatever that's currently circulating. Or if you took over an area that used to be controlled by someone, you use the same imagery that they did, even though you're not that king. You don't care about those symbols. That's not who you are. But you are not in a position to use this as governmental propaganda because you don't yet have the prestige enough to issue and create governmental propaganda in this way. Instead, what you are doing is you are borrowing the prestige from someone else who does have that reputation and everything else, and saying, look, you know, we're meshed into this. We're doing the same thing. Associate us with this. And that is why you should use our coins and trust us.
So this is a coin you said is probably made by pagans, but they're imitating Christian coins because that would have been way more useful than them making their own stuff with a bunch of pagan nonsense on it.
Right. Almost all the kings at the time that the first one especially was done, they were almost all pagan, and the vast majority of people using this were total pagans. Some of these coins, like, they don't even quite get the crosses right because they don't really have an idea of why the crosses matter. And they're not trying to deface them. They're just trying to imitate the coins and make it look like previous things. They'll have here, you know, you have Crispus, but look at the R, it's a B instead. Like, they're trying to have the letters, but they don't really care if it's that accurate. It's just good enough to borrow this prestige and pass itself off as something that people look at and they go, this is coinage. This is something I recognize. This is something I trust. This is something I believe in. So they aren't saying, oh, you know, yay Christ, yay the Romans who exist, but we don't we don't pay any money to, we don't listen to the Roman emperor. But, you know, they have imagery that borrows from that so that people look at it and go, this looks like a coin to me. And then they'll use it.
So if we saw these crosses and said, you see, this was made by Christians, we would be mistaken.
You would be completely wrong. Yes.
There's another coin
And
that tries to
additionally,
say,
that's not the picture of the ruler, right? That's not the picture of the ruler. That's a picture of a long dead Roman ruler.
Heraclius is, that one is a picture of a current one.
You put a picture of the king,
Yep.
and then on the front you put a picture of the king. On the back side you put religious imagery so you know who the king is and what his religion is.
Right, and this one has Heraclius, who is the king in Byzantium, but the people minting this did not recognize him, paid no money to him, paid no honor to him whatsoever. And then the second one is from someone from centuries before, a dead Roman king with more current Christian imagery on the back, combined together, smushed together into a new coin that had never existed before. So, like, it's not even current living kings, much less kings they recognize necessarily.
I will just say to Thaddeus, we're going to be probably seeing a bunch of coins. Try not to refer to try not to keep using the phrase and what's on the, you know, if you look at the backside and so on. I am making a Muhammad and Al-Zut video, and everything's going to have a disturbing double meaning. And we want to keep people's thoughts. We want everyone's thoughts to be pure and not defiled by Islam.
So look at the reverse.
There it is. It's the reverse side.
There we go.
Kings of an illiterate people. Here is another coin that tries to say Crispus Nob Kais, an abbreviation for Crispus, most noble Caesar, trying to imitate the 4th century coins of the Roman Emperor Crispus still in circulation in the 7th century. But the die maker messes up the words, writing B for R in Crispus and an H for an A and the abbreviation for Caesar. And the reverse has the back of a different coin with indecipherable attempts at runes and letters. Here's one done so badly that the crosses have stopped being clearly recognizable. In comparison, here's a coin of a native type minted in the Anglo-Saxon kingdom of Wessex after Christianization. It imitates the basic layout of Roman coins, but it relies on its own prestige and has a distinct local design. It doesn't bother with words because the people are illiterate, and the king is unrecognizable because the specific king isn't what's being invoked, but rather the kingdom as a whole. How does this fit into Jay's confident assertion that coins are the announcement of a new king? This is not something that ever happened.
And what you would do is you would put your image on the coin, you would put your name on the coin, and you would put the date, and then you would put some religious identification to show what religion you belong to, especially in that part of the world, because there were two primary religions that were competing. One was Christianity, and the other was Zoroastrianism. The Sasanians, the Persians, were Zoroastrian, and that's why they were very clear as to who is Christian and who is Zoroastrian.
So Jay Smith's theory here is that people in Rome knew their emperor was was a Christian because he had Christian imagery on his coins, and people in Persia knew their emperor was a Zoroastrian because he had Zoroastrian symbols on his coin, because Christianity and Zoroastrianism were in such competition that otherwise people would be confused. Maybe one day a ruler would decide to switch religions, and he'd let everyone know by changing the coins.
And then you would put...
I have to ask, why does Mary grin while listening to herself? I'm just pointing that out because that's what Thaddeus does when I play a video from Thaddeus. Thaddeus will be sitting there watching himself, and
I'm pleased. Well, a lot of times I'm looking at the chat, but I'm pleased with the fact that I have so far managed not to sound annoyed. I'm working so I can remember working so hard and trying not to sound annoyed. So I'm laughing at myself, struggling to not sound annoyed. So that's what's happening. I'm doing a pretty good job here. I'm not sounding annoyed yet because unfortunately I'm not very good at sounding sweet and rather good at sounding annoyed.
You're not? Oh, okay. Backed up slightly. Let's see.
Because he had Zoroastrian symbols on his coin, because Christianity and Zoroastrianism were in such competition that otherwise people would be confused.
So, if I'm following this, Jay has claimed that it's just standard practice that if you're a king, you become the new king or the new emperor. You want to show your authority, but also let people know that you are the king by putting out coins with you on it. And we definitely see lots of Romans having their pictures on their coins and so on. And so you'd want your picture on there so everyone knows, hey, now we got the new coins to tell you the new king is here. And you would want to identify your religion in some way on the coin so that there's no confusion about what's going on. You've got a war. Things are going back and forth. Battles are being won here and there. You want people to know this is your coin with your picture because you're the new king and here's your religion. And you're pointing out, no,
religion.
It didn't work like that.
The announcement of your personal religion that, they're letting, the point of coins is to let people know about the kings and what their personal religion is. That is his claim, because he needs this to be his claim for his argument. And that does not happen at all. You might get a new one if a king has decided he wants to change the religion of his country, but it's not a statement of his personal faith so that everybody knows, oh, well, look, the Roman king, he's still a Christian. And I will explain in a second in here. I don't need to repeat myself.
Yeah. So before we go on, so Jay's theory here is that, especially in this region, right, it's near the border of Zoroastrianism and Christianity. It's really important to put religious symbols. I'm going to trust that David hasn't seen what's coming up, but what would be an obvious direct contradiction to Jay's ideas? If there's Zoroastrian here, the early, what we would call Muslims, are really Christians. That's why they're putting crosses. What would be an obvious contradiction to that?
Wait, what? You're saying you got Zoroastrians over here. What do you mean? What do you mean? What would be a contradiction? You got Zoroastrians over here, Christians over here. Okay.
The Zoroastrians over here, Christians over here.
The reason Muay is putting out these coins is because he's a Christian, right? And he's telling the Persians that he is a Christian. He is not on their side on Zoroastrianism.
What would be a refutation?
If you issued a coin, right? What kind of coin would be a direct refutation of that?
Like a Zoroastrian coin or...
There we go.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wouldn't it? Wouldn't that kind of destroy the argument that each ruler is only going to mint one type of religion on their coins? Because everybody needs to know what your religion is, and that's the purpose of coinage.
And there's a question here from Austin. Let's see. ET just real quick says, he says, Mary, hi.
Hi.
And then we get to a question from Austin. It says, I'm confused about the argument. If the Muslims were conquering, wouldn't their primary concern be war, not currency? Am I wrong? God bless all of you. I'm going back to studying for my test. Yeah, that would be what I was wondering too. I mean, you got a bunch of like desert Arabs who start conquering their way out of Arabia and so on like that. Like, are these guys going to be coin experts and stuff? Like, eventually, obviously, you would want to and stuff. But how early do you expect them to be like, hey, we need to really dedicate a lot of our efforts to making our own coinage. It kind of only works if you take what Jay said for granted, that anyone who takes over is going to want their ruler and their religion on their coin, and that is going to be a top priority, because other than that, how's anyone going to know who's in charge now?
And what would go against that immediately
as we go forward? Yep.
Yeah, is if people just keep minting the same coins that there were before. That would be an obvious refutation of the entire theory. So
let's see what we got.
Maybe one day a ruler would decide to switch religions, and he'd let everyone know by changing the coins.
And then you would put some...
Because he had Christian imagery on his coins, and people in Persia knew their emperor was a Zoroastrian because he had Zoroastrian symbols on his coin, because Christianity and Zoroastrianism were in such competition that otherwise people would be confused. Maybe one day a ruler would decide to switch religions, and he'd let everyone know by changing the coins.
And then you would put some religious identification to show what religion you belong to.
Of course, this is the most abject nonsense. The coins had the religions of the empires, not to advertise the personal faith of the ruler, but rather to invoke the authority of the god the people recognized. J. Smith then goes on a rabbit trail about the location of the mints.
Two different sets of mints. They're much further north. They're where the water is. If there's water, there are people. If there are...
Wait, hang on. So these are like the places on the map here. These are places where they're printing coins.
The northern ones, not Mecca and Medina. It's hard to see, but they're actually red versus the green of Mecca and Medina. So he's arguing that Islam didn't come from Mecca and Medina because they're making all the coins in the north. And these are all the mints that he has identified.
Of the mints.
Two different sets of mints. They're much further north. They're where the water is. If there's water, there are people. If there are people, there are civilizations. Where there is civilization, there is money. Where there's money, you need to mint the coins. So these coins that we're going to look at are all from those mints. There are no mints further south, unless you go way down to Yemen and Oman, the Sabaean area. Other than that, there are no mints in between, because there's nobody living there. Why? Because there's no water.
The caliphs took over the existing mints in Rome and in Persia. Jay is arguing that every place that has water should have people in it and its own mint, but even in his own map, this is transparently untrue. Mints are in big cities in land firmly controlled by an empire, so there are no mints in Mesopotamia, though it is famously well watered by the Tigris and Euphrates, and the very birthplace of civilization. There is water there, and there are ancient cities there, but there are no mints. Because this area was not in the heartland of either kingdom, but was sometimes controlled by one and sometimes by another. No Orientalist, aside from Montgomery Watts, has ever seriously claimed that Mecca was a large city. As Medina is also a place Jay claims has no water and no people, he should be surprised, then, to find it on Ptolemy's map, which he is so excited to present as not containing Mecca. In fact, there was an entire kingdom that lasted more than a century that occupied most of the Arabian desert, because people do, in fact, live there, and did live there at that time. And no, this kingdom did not strike its own coins, which J. Smith implies means it doesn't exist. Having dealt with this straw man, let's see what he is going to claim about the coins.
You follow the...
So you want... Yep, I was going to say pause there.
Yeah, that's
directly related to that super chat, right? That why they have other priorities, right? They have other priorities than printing coins. But Jay's saying because there's no coins in this region during the time where Muhammad purportedly was bringing Islam to the world, that means there couldn't have been any Muslims in that area. There couldn't have been any caliphs in that area. No one lived there because they didn't have any water. But in fact, there's a known empire that was there for sure before the time of Islam, and they didn't make any coins either. So it doesn't follow no coins mean no one was there.
So we know this is a kingdom.
Yep.
They didn't mint coins.
Correct.
So it sounds like I guess Jay is saying, okay, here's how things work for the Romans and for certain other empires. Therefore, you can lay it down as a rule that any empire would do the exact same thing. And you're saying, no, that doesn't work. You can't conclude that. And I guess you could say further, This is way closer. This place right here is way closer to Islamic thinking. In other words, the people from Medina and so on would, their thinking would be much closer to that of this empire than it would be to like Roman thinking or something else. And therefore, if these guys don't think it's important to print coins, mint their own coins, maybe the early Muslims wouldn't have taken that as like a huge priority either. That right?
That is correct.
Right. Same cultural milieu, right? People coming from the same region. They don't have like long-term experience making coins. So why would we suddenly say, well, the Islamic Empire couldn't have been there because they didn't make any coins in that region?
Let's see.
And I do want to point out, that there are many inscriptions over many different years from Yemen that talk about the different peoples who lived in the areas that Jay keeps saying are uninhabited. They place people. They do expeditions of war against them. The Romans talk about people living there. And it's just so useful for Jay to say no one lives there that he'll just say it, even though we have all of these sources that say that various tribes did. If he wants to say there's no record of the Quraysh tribe specifically, that would be true. But saying that people didn't live there, no, people lived there. It's well documented. Every reference has people living here. People didn't live in the empty quarter. That's why it was called the empty quarter. That's what it means, is that no one lives there because you can't graze your animals. So in the empty quarter, no one lived there. But today, right now, there are Bedouins who live in the Hijaz and graze their animals there and make their living by a very poor living by grazing their animals through the mountains. I'm not saying they're rich, but they are alive. They exist, and they've always existed. They're very peculiar arguments that if it's a desert, like all deserts are the same desert and they're just completely barren. It's not true.
We got two kind of historical questions. Let's see in the super chat here. But first, we got Giovanni saying, lately this passage has been stuck on repeat in my mind, and I don't know why. Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of man. I wake up with it on my mind these past few days, so it's a good passage to have in your mind. Now here, I read that Muhammad's father's name was Abdullah. I've read that too. And that the Quraysh were titled Ahl Allah before, that's people of Allah, before Muhammad's birth, with Allah being the supreme deity of the pagans, but without an idol in the Kaaba.
There's one little thing I would do a correction on. Allah and Hubal were identical to them. So there was the aniconic rock, and then they thought that they needed something more special for Allah that was more like, they wanted to attract all the pagans. So some of the pagans are aniconic, other ones wanted idols, so they went and grabbed an idol, and Hubal was Allah. It's very clear. You have Muhammad's grandfather standing in front of Hubal's idol and saying, "Oh, Allah," in the sources, like looking at him and calling him Allah in Ibn Ishaq, which of course, guess who took that out? Ibn Hisham, but guess who kept it? Al-Tabari, which is why we are very thankful that we have multiple sources and multiple attestations. And when people try to rescue the Kaaba from its pagan roots, I don't see this as helpful. And a lot of the nomos, the Muhammad mythicists, try to rescue the paganism of the origins of Islam. Don't know why that would help anyone. You guys are still kissing a pagan idol. It's still pagan, was pagan, is pagan, will always be pagan.
And one more. What are your thoughts on this? Isn't Petra the real Mecca? So we've all heard about that for many, many years now. What do you think?
No, the Qiblas did not change direction. It's that simple. And there's no difference between before the supposed change date and after, when it is measured by anyone who is not either Gibson or on Gibson's team, unfortunately.
We may have to investigate that at some point. All right, back to this.
It doesn't exist. Having dealt with this straw man, let's see what he is going to claim about the coins.
You follow the coins, you follow the story. If you want to see what was happening at that time, look and see what the coins tell you. At the time of Muhammad, there are no coins at all that say anything about him. He's not on any coin. Wait a minute. If he is the beginning of the caliphate, if he is the first caliph, if he is the caliph from 6...
Muhammad's the first caliph?
Yeah, he keeps teaching this and I have no idea why. It's an unfortunate thing. He wants Muhammad to be a caliph so he can make an argument about no coins. But ask any Muslim, is Muhammad a caliph? No. Caliph means successor. They're the successors of the prophet. He was a prophet, did not claim to be a caliph, had no intentions of minting coins. Remember, he's down in the place where Kinda ruled. And so why would he mint coins that the previous kingdom didn't? But he wants Muhammad to be a caliph, so he starts telling people that Muslims believe he's a caliph, and this is one of the problems.
Right.
Like if you go up to a Muslim and go,
But
"Hey,
we
you're
can ignore
Muhammad,"
we can forgive the term, but he is trying to say that Muhammad is the ruler, right?
He
He's
can
the
replace
king.
that with ruler or leader or something like that.
Yeah, we can forgive the use of the term. That's not the focus here. But he's trying to say that Muhammad established the empire and he was the ruler over the empire. So why didn't he print coins?
Oh, but he repeats that he was the first caliph in a ton of videos. This is not an oopsie, just so you know. It's one of the things that have had me pull my hair out recently.
Time, look and see what the coins tell you. At the time of Muhammad, there are no coins at all that say anything about him. He's not on any coin. Wait a minute. If he is the beginning of the caliphate, if he is the first caliph, if he is the caliph from 624 up until 632, why are there no coins with his name on it?
Muhammad.
So the assumption would be that, so he's taken like, here's how the Romans did it, and here's how some other empires did it. Therefore, if Muhammad became king, then even though the previous empire in the area didn't do it, Muhammad would have said, hey, I'm taking charge of Medina right now. I need to start printing my own currency. But you don't have that, and that's a problem for the entire story. That's the reasoning there? Okay. All right.
He is the beginning of the caliphate, if he is the first caliph, if he is the caliph from 624 up until 632, why are there no coins with his name on it?
Muhammad was not a caliph or even a kingdom builder, but an apocalyptic prophet who believed the end of the world would come in his lifetime. Aside from this, Muhammad did not strike coins because he didn't take control of an area that had ever struck coins. The idea that there should be coins before the proto-Muslims conquered a coin-minting region is something that comes entirely from the imagination of J. Smith. Remember that the kingdom of Kinda also never minted coins.
There are coins there, and they do have names on it. You can see the coins are all there. And what do you notice about those coins? They have crosses on them. And they are names, but they're not any of the names we would expect. Where's Umar? Where is Uthman, especially Umar and Uthman? Those are the two major ones. They had the most time. Where are their names? But certainly Umar or Uthman's name should be there. No reference to anybody. Now, there is an Umar, but it's not the Umar we know. We're going to get to that. So the Sassanid Empire ceases, yet the Arab coins are Christian up to 661.
Jay claims that the coins of the Caliphate all have crosses, and so they are Christian. He has already shown us the locations of the mints, so he is implying that all the mints are producing these cross coins. He says the Sasanian Empire ceases, as if to bolster that fact. But what was really going on? The desert Arabs had no tradition of minting coins with their own rulers' names or images, so like many primitive powers, their first coins were largely imitative. Here are some coins from ancient Yemen and Arabia that imitated Athenian coins, with Athena and her sigil and owl on it, even though they didn't worship Athena. To ancient Yemenis, coins were something that had owls on them. It took hundreds of years after the introduction of coinage to Yemen for Yemenis to adopt the practice of making them after the images of their own kings and gods, because the borrowed prestige of existing currency had worked so well for them. But
so hang on, you're saying in Yemen they minted coins, but since they didn't know kind of what to do, they imitated the coins of the Greeks with Athena and the owl, and then after a while they just thought that's what coins were. They're things with this and this owl on it, and you're saying it took a long time for them to have a concept of putting their own stuff on coins.
Yep. And Yemen by this time was a great civilization that had lasted for a good while before they ran into coinage. And I think it was I forget which century BC, but they'd been around for several hundred years as a civilization without any coinage. They run into coins and they're like, oh, this is what coins are, so we'll just keep making these coins. And eventually they're like, hey, you know what we could do with these coins? We could put our kings on them, and we could put our gods on them. But it took hundreds of years.
So if we were to sort of follow Jay's reasoning, then we would say, look, in Yemen they made coins, and they didn't put their own they didn't put their own religion and their own stuff on it. Therefore, they didn't have their own. They didn't have any alternative position. Didn't have any alternative ruler. They put Athena and her owl on it. Therefore, they were actually Greeks with a Greek religion. That would be the correct assessment.
Yep.
Okay.
That would be
I mean, I guess the Yemenis followed the original religion of Athena, right? That would be the conclusion.
Oh, we got that.
Or I guess this has to be their ruler. That has to be their ruler on one side. So that figure couldn't be Athena anymore. It has to be a king. Which is even more peculiar.
But the owl is still Athena, so they still follow the religion.
But the owl is still Athena, right? Right. So, but the other side would have to be the ruler. The obverse. Look at me using fancy words. I'm not a coin
untrue that the
You said obverse.
hundreds of years after the introduction of coinage to Yemen, for Yemenis to adopt the practice of making them after the images of their own kings and gods, because the borrowed prestige of existing currency had worked so well for them. But it is untrue that the proto-Muslims made no attempt to introduce their own coinage early on. There is a coin dated to the time of Uthman, because it has a pre-Kufic script that says Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Note that this is a name because it doesn't have an article. It's not the Muhammad, but Muhammad, a simple name.
So your unsubstantiated, unverified claim is that this is a coin from the Caliphate of Uthman?
Yes, and that is, it was dated by Michael Broom, who is an expert on early Arab coinage. So, and the other side, it's really hard to see, but it actually has not a caliph, but rather a shah. It is a Sasanian style coin, but they replaced one time. Who knows how long this ran? It got quickly, I think this might be the only physical surviving copy of this coin because they tried this out for such a short period of time. But on one side you have a Shah, a Persian Shah, and on the other side you have Muhammad is a messenger of Allah. So they tried it out. They tried to go, hey, let's replace this religious symbolism. This is religious. Let's put our own there. Didn't seem to work out for them. And you'll see what they minted instead in the Sasanian, Persian, Zoroastrian area for decades after, because this didn't work.
Mm-hmm. And I know David was joking there, but as you can see, it says copyright Michael Broom there. Michael Broom is the one who has given it this title, not Mary. Right? This is his description of the coin.
AP has a debate tonight at 9 p.m. But AP showed up in the chat real quick. Just get this one from Giovanni here. But I've seen so much archaeological evidence for Petra being Mecca, including old mosque facing in its direction. Just curious, honestly. Sounded like that's what you responded to. But
yeah, it's just not true. That's the short answer.
And
I do want to add one thing real quick there. Even if Petra was the original Mecca, or Jerusalem was the original Mecca, as they later claimed, or Persia was the original Mecca, or Syria was the original Mecca, or North Africa, or Ethiopia, these are all theories that have been put out by Jay over time, is the original Mecca, it wouldn't actually affect the historicity of the Muhammad character, right? He
Correct.
You could have a Muhammad from Petra that fits a lot of the details, and then you could say that there was a conspiracy to change the location by someone who wanted Mecca as the new headquarters for Islam, or you wanted a bunch of pilgrims there to make a bunch of money or something like that.
Exactly.
So
getting rid of Mecca doesn't really help the Muhammad mythicism theory. It just goes, oh, there are dastardly caliphs who are able to manipulate people in this way. What else could they do? And then you have to make a case for it. But first you have to really prove that location is the correct location.
Drew says, Muhammad was an illiterate caravan robber. I'm pretty sure he enjoyed any coins he could get his dirty hands on. Yeah, Muhammad would have loved any And not just coins. Little girls, all kinds of things. Here we have AP trying to distract us. He says, Mary should start and... Do you actually, I see this all the time. Do you pronounce it and say ASMR or do you say ASMR?
ASMR.
You say ASMR. Okay.
Yeah. Mary trying to sound like as chill as possible when Mary is very bad at sounding chill.
And here we go. And here you have an important challenge. If Muhammad existed, why didn't he start a crypto coin like Zutcoin?
It's a good question.
That is an extremely good question. Muhammad definitely, if Muhammad were to make a coin, he would make the Zut coin. We find no Zut coins.
Andrew Tate started a crypto coin, and Muhammad and Andrew Tate are very similar. So that's a very valid question, I must say.
Giovanni says, no, I agree with you guys. I was just wondering. I don't know if you mean you agree with us about Muhammad, but not about Petra, or if you mean you agree and you were just kind of bringing it up for discussion or something like that. But yeah, we will eventually, because that's another important issue in all this, but we'll eventually cover that. Maybe get a couple of experts who want to defend the Petra theory, and we'll see what happens. All right.
Why did they stop making this coin? Because this strange coin with this unrecognized name would not have had the prestige to inspire confidence among the masses that the caliphate had conquered. More about this later. What kinds of coins did the caliphs imitate? J. Smith would have you believe that only Roman coins with crosses were imitated. He needs this to be true so he can push the story that the caliphate was Christian. In fact, J. Smith implies that it is unthinkable that the same person would mint coins with different religious symbols.
There were two primary religions that were competing. One was Christianity and the other was Zoroastrianism. The Sasanians, the Persians, were Zoroastrian. And that's why they were very clear as to who is Christian and who is Zoroastrian.
So we should clearly see that the early caliphs were Zoroastrian or Christian because there is no Islam and there is no way they'd produce coins with both Zoroastrian and Christian symbols under Jay's thesis. And now Jay is here claiming that the caliphs were Christians because their coins had crosses. But the caliphs were producing coins with Zoroastrian symbols at the exact time they were producing coins with crosses.
There is not any earlier cross coins than Zoroastrian coins. As soon as they had the Zoroastrian mints, they minted the Zoroastrian coins too, with the religious Zoroastrian imagery on it.
And I want to...
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, to Mel's credit, he earlier said you wouldn't different regions print, weren't the coins regional? Exactly. They're printing coins not based on the beliefs of the ruler, but what they'll accept in the local regions. So simultaneously printing Zoroastrian coins and Christian coins, which means these coins are not evidence that the early Muslims were in fact Christians.
How would you know that these are from like the same area or of the same empire? In other words, how do you know there's not like this early Arab Christian area and they're still using crosses, but these are from an area that's still under Zoroastrian control?
He admits that they were conquered because it says Muhammad and Muhammad and all of these Eastern sources about their forces conquering at the same time. So it pretty much has to be. And he doesn't throw that out in his theory. He just says that there are 50 different Muhammads that are all part of the same religious movement. And this does have some... it has the Arabic word for good on it, so it does actually have Arabic print in it. It's just really small and hard to see. But yeah, I mean, all of the Christian sources.
So just to be clear, these are from the same empire, you're saying? These are from the same empire, and you have Christian, you have coins with crosses printed by that empire, and Jay says, aha, therefore they were Christians, and you're pointing out they also had, from the same empire, they're printing Zoroastrian coins with Zoroastrian symbols on them, which suggests that the empire didn't care about what's being put on the coins as long as they're accepted as coins.
Yes, and his theory is that only crosses are made at this point. Nothing but crosses are made because they're Christian. That shows that they're Christian. They would only print crosses. We've already dispelled the myth that they would only print crosses if they're Christian, first of all. But secondly, only crosses were minted. That is what he says over and over again, that at this point, only crosses. And it's just not true.
Cross coins came from the Roman mints and the Zoroastrian symbol crosses. The cross coins came from the Roman mints and the Zoroastrian symbol coins from the Sasanian mints. This is a coin with the holiest symbol of Zoroastrianism on it, together with an Arabic mark for good during Umar's reign. Jay is furthermore claiming that coins must necessarily have the image of the ruler who issues them on them. We've already shown this is untrue in our Anglo-Saxon examples, but the Zoroastrian coins prove it, since they were struck with figures of various kings, some of whom were already dead, and one of whom the Arabs were actively chasing across Central Asia in order to kill. These were minted during the time that J. Smith says the coins have only crosses.
What do you notice about those coins? They have crosses on them.
There are also Roman-style coins imitating long-dead emperors. Here is the one in the style of a coin of Justinian II, who died in 578, about a century before this was minted.
And I meant to
Jay's
say
thesis,
Justin.
as usual.
What's that?
I meant to say Justin II. Sorry, guys. So it's Justin II, not Justinian.
You see, Mary was lying.
Ha!
So
I just like
Roman-style
adding syllables.
coins imitating long-dead emperors. Here is the one in the style of a coin of Justinian II, who died in 578, about a century before this was minted. Jay's thesis, as usual, does not stand up to scrutiny.
6061 is when then Muawiyah takes over, destroys Ali, according to what the traditions tell us, the standard Islamic narrative tell us. This is when the Umayyad Caliphate comes to power and he mints coins. When he comes to power, look at the coins that he mints. Notice the coin has crosses on it again. If the Western mints all have crosses, the Eastern coins and the Eastern mints all have what we know as Zoroastrian fire altars. This is Zoroastrian. So it depends on where the mint is.
Now suddenly Jay is aware of the
Exactly.
Eastern mints that have Zoroastrian symbols. But did he not just say that rulers clearly communicated whether they are Zoroastrian or Christian? Therefore, by J. Smith's logic, he must propose that Muqawiyah is both Zoroastrian and Christian. Or rather, that Jay's own logic is false, because by his framing, it should be unthinkable for a ruler to issue coins with two competing religions on them. But instead, he rejects everything he has said up until this moment about the meaning of religious iconography on coins, and claims that Muqawiyah uniquely decided to communicate something entirely different with his coins.
So it depends on where the mint is. They're just representing the religion of that time. In fact, he himself is very clear that he is a Christian all the way up until 680.
So now we have a new claim. Jay has already stated that coins are supposed to tell people about the ruler, because otherwise people would be ignorant of who the ruler is and what he believes. But now coins are here to let you know what religion you believe in. J. Smith argues that we should believe Muqawiyah is a Christian because the earlier coins had only crosses on them, but this is untrue. He also is asserting Muqawiyah is suddenly indifferent to the standard that J. Smith himself set for rulers, that they would always communicate what religion they held to through coins.
Wait, hang on. I don't know if I missed something, but was he saying? Okay, so you had Muawiyah and the coins.
He's a Christian, yeah.
The coins during this time have crosses. Therefore, this guy is a Christian. But Jay is acknowledging that other coins in the same empire, but on the eastern side, had Zoroastrian symbols. But he's saying, therefore, Muawiyah didn't care a whole lot.
He didn't care about those because now those are just to tell you that you're a Zoroastrian, in case you got confused. So they're letting you know that you're a Zoroastrian if you're in the East, while he's telling everyone that he is a Christian in the West.
That's what he was saying?
That's what he was saying. That's what.
I mean, that's the only way to make sense out of it. I mean, he says something accurate, right? He says something accurate that the reason there's different coins is because they're based on, he says the religion of the people, but really based on what the people would accept, right? Because of what their religious beliefs are, right? They'll accept different coins, so they print different coins for different people. But somehow we know Muawiyah is a Christian because he put crosses on all of his coins, but not the Zoroastrian ones that were also printed under him. It's very confused. It's a nice little story, right? Why is there this coin that says MHMD and has crosses on it? This must mean that we misunderstand what MHMD means. It must be, maybe it's a title for Jesus or something. Like, it's a great story. Problem is, it's not consistent with even the things he's saying in the video where he's trying to support this argument.
Yes.
Yeah, so you kind of can't have it. You can't have it both ways. Well, you can have it both ways. You can do whatever you want, but you can't expect to take your claim seriously. So just to recap, it's how do we know Muawiyah was a Christian and not a Muslim who believed in the Muhammad of Islam? Because coins printed during his reign have crosses on them, and you wouldn't have put crosses on there unless you believed in that, unless you believed in Christianity. But you have Zoroastrian symbols on coins also printed in his empire, and there Muawiyah is just saying, well, you guys believe in Zoroastrianism, so we don't care what you put on, what you have on your coins. That's your religion. And so we would be interpreting this as, well, if he didn't have a problem printing coins with the symbols of a religion that he didn't follow, how in the name of common sense can you say when you see a cross that means he's a Christian?
You can't. You just hope that they get swept up in the rhetoric and that people don't think about it. That's basically it. And what's more, some of the coins that he say are uniquely Muqawiyah that are presenting his theology are from before him. They're not from Muqawiyah. They were not first created then.
He creates narratives without a basis in fact to frame the evidence that he has handpicked to present his case. And then just as easily, he throws away the supposedly airtight logic when he feels the need to permit other evidence.
So Muhammad, if he died in 632, we're now 50 years later, 680, still the coins are either Christian or Zoroastrian. Nothing at all that is anything close to Islam.
This is all
Christian or Zoroastrian.
No, right?
Or right.
Or
one or the other.
But they always were from the beginning. From the beginning, the Zoroastrian ones never stopped being made.
Yeah, I mean, what does this really mean? This means that 50 years later, the Muslims don't have enough power yet to override that they haven't converted enough people by the sword or whatever to change the coins. That's what it really means.
Yes, that's what it means.
Which is not in contradiction to the standard understanding of how the conquest went.
Need to permit other evidence.
So Muhammad, if he died in 632, we're now 50 years later, 680, still the coins are either Christian or Zoroastrian. Nothing at all that is anything close to Islam.
This is also untrue. There is a clearly Islamic coin in the database from the time of Uthman, which we have already looked at. But why aren't the coins all Islamic? The Anglo-Saxon coins that imitate the Roman coins tell you why. The confidence of the people was needed for coins to be accepted, and the people did not accept this early Islamic coinage, and the caliphs did not yet feel they had enough power to force them to do so.
Now, earlier you said you had other coins, so you mean other Islamic coins? Is that what you're saying?
I have other Islamic coins where they tried to remove things. Yeah, and I can show you some of them.
No, I just mean I'm trying to understand what you're talking about. So you mean coins from the time that are Islamic when Jay says there were no Islamic coins?
Correct. Or tried to do things. Like, for example, I have coins that mutilate the crosses that were put out for a very short while and then discontinued. So they mean something. They mutilated the crosses. They messed up the crosses on these. They are pre-Muqawiyah because Muqawiyah redid the coinage. He made it lighter. The heavier ones are from before. The lighter ones are from after. Essentially debased it, but not by changing the mixture, but by changing the weight. Mm-hmm. And so they know that it's before Muqawiyah that this was done. And in fact, the coin that he's super, super proud of recently, this has the name of Muhammad and Mahmud, which is not an Arabic word, and that this is totally Jesus because Muqawiyah did it and he's a Christian. The book on Arab Byzantine coins says most of them are relatively heavy, suggesting an issue of 647 to 658. So this is pre-Muqawiyah. Muqawiyah is supposed to take over in 661. So these are Uthmanic. They're heavy, or Ali slash Uthman. So they are before Muqawiyah takes over in 661 and the end of the Rashidun Caliphate, right? And they're too heavy to be from his era. And yet, in J. Smith's telling, this is new coinage making specific religious ideas introduced by Muqawiyah, with whom he makes a central figure. And he's the one who develops the Muhammad material. Yet this is before him, just like the other one is before him. So it's all confused.
You're making zero sense, because why would a bunch of Christians deface the cross on coins?
Yeah, good question.
Funny. Since they're all Christians, it's very odd that they were doing horrible things to the crosses on various coins. And they're called de-Christianized type, in fact. They're like a class of coinage in the Rashidun Caliphate called the de-Christianized type, which are all they're pre-Umayyad, right? So they're all the Rashidun Caliphate, the de-Christianized types of coins that exist that they keep trying to issue, and people keep going, no, we're not going to use this stuff. That's garbage. So,
in fact, have multiple testimonies of Christians at the time who talk about the cross, which remained on the gold solidus for even longer than on the silver coinage. Talking about new Muslim rulers, Anastasius of Sinai said, they were unable to eliminate the emperor's picture with the cross from the gold currency, even though some tyrants attempted it. This eyewitness claims their rulers would like to get rid of the emperor and cross from the coinage, but they could not. In dialogue with a Jew, another Christian states that both the Persians and the Arabs tried to erase Roman Christian symbolism from the coins but were not able. Lumping the Jews in with these Persians and now Arab rulers, he says, how is it that all you who hate and blaspheme the cross of Christ are unable to remove the cross of gold but even readily receive it? Meaning that they circulated the money. So he sees the caliphs who retain the cross as haters and blasphemers of it. Are we to believe J. Smith's assertions?
This is a Christian saying, your own, right? You want to remove the cross and you can't because your religion is false. You try to blaspheme the cross. God won't allow you to move the cross from the coins. And Jay's saying they're putting these coins because they love the cross.
What is really
one second.
damaging?
Mary, go ahead and comment on that, but don't say anything that I need to hear. I got to check something real quick.
That's fine. So
Sure.
One thing that J. Smith did almost immediately, and supposedly responding to us in a live stream in which I brought these up first, he said that these were the arguments of Muslims, that Muslims make this claim, which means that he's either calling me a Muslim for reading what Christians said from the 7th century, or else these 7th century Christians are actually Muslims. That is the only way to understand what he was saying. So I put out a video that mockingly said that J. Smith finds 7th century Muslims. That's what it's called. Because he starts out going, well, Muslims tell us this is the reason why the coinage is like this. No Muslim has said that. Like some Muslim might repeat it from the Christians. Christian eyewitnesses in dialogue with people who were mocking Christians because they had been taken over by their enemies, the enemies of Christ, were saying this to be extraordinarily clear. So, and it is extremely unfortunate that every single one of Jay's arguments is like this. And this is his cornerstone argument. His cornerstone proof that this Mahmed, which was never a title, it was never used in the place of the name of Jesus. It was never used of Jesus at any time. No one said Mahmed for Jesus. Never used that way. But his cornerstone for this, he's building up to it. He doesn't deal with it in this particular video, but it's one of these coins that has Muhammad at the bottom. And his argument is that, oh, well, they have Muhammad on the side that has the M for the numus symbol for the amount of currency it is. And underneath it, they have Muhammad, and they would never have Muhammad under that. And there's a tiny cross on the top because there's a cross on the top. So it has to be about Jesus. Well, what was on the coins in the place of Muhammad's name previously? Was it Jesus? No, it was the mint mark, the abbreviation of the city. So the only thing that Muhammad's name replaced was the abbreviation of the city. On that back side, the reverse, you would have the denomination, the M, the mint mark at the bottom, the word year in Latin, and then the year on the other side of it. And often you'd have like a special mark for the workshop. And then you'd have an exerguild line, and I don't even know why you'd have that. But all it replaced is the mint mark. So now the mint is being labeled as Muhammad to a casual Christian. And comparing that to mutilating the cross, it's no comparison. None at all. All right.
Mm-hmm. Good timing, David. Mary was just
excellent timing.
Up.
Well, I was timing it for him. I was going because he was still gone.
No, not yet. Having a tech problem.
Oh no.
Let's see how I can fix this.
But, I mean, if you want while you're
trying
to fix that.
We're good. I got it. I'm good.
Okay. Good. All right.
I'm good. Cool. All right. Give me the short version of everything you just said.
The short version was that Jay Smith called these Christians, or else called me, Muslims, making the argument that the reason why they weren't removing the cross is because the populace wouldn't accept it. So either he made a response video at the request of Mel while claiming he won't watch her stuff, but also doing a response to it. And the first thing he said, he went in order of my points. And the first thing he said is that this is a Muslim argument. So either these Christians from the 7th century, and one of the reasons I get so heated about this is that he's constantly calling 7th century Christians fake Muslims from later dates or something, that they're Muslims, or else I am a Muslim for like speaking their words. And it's crazy that the way you're going to deal with this period testimony, to throw it out, you're going to say, oh, Muslims say that. I don't think that that's acceptable, frankly. I just don't think that that's an acceptable way of having a dialogue with anyone.
I mean, the guy literally said that you hate and blaspheme the cross. Right?
Yes. All so you who hate and blaspheme the Christ. Right.
Like I said, this guy, he's bragging, right? He's bragging. You can't take our cross off your coins, even though you want to.
Yep. And he's saying it specifically to the Persians who had briefly conquered the Levant for a short while, the Saracens, and the Jews who are still there. And a Jew is mocking him for having been taken over by haters of the cross. And he's saying, well, they might hate the cross, but they can't defeat it. They're never going to take it off our coinage, which they later did.
Right. He was wrong. But at the time, he's saying like, ha ha ha, you can't defeat the cross. It's crazy. And yet this is a Muslim argument.
Receive it, meaning that they circulated the money. So he sees the caliphs who retain the cross as haters and blasphemers of it. Are we to believe J. Smith's assertions, or are we to believe these eyewitnesses? In 636, the Bishop of Jerusalem described the Muslims who were about to conquer Jerusalem as mocking the cross and blaspheming Christ, the church, and God, and as God-fighters who pulled down churches. Who are we to believe? The Bishop of Jerusalem speaking to his people, or J. Smith's assertions about what the appearance of a coin means? Muqawiya removed crosses from coins.
If we can pause this really quickly. In response to Sophronius saying that they mock the Christ, pull down churches, blaspheme God, he's like, these aren't Muslim, or these aren't the coming in Arabs, because look, they have the cross. So he's saying that what Saint Sophronius says is ridiculous and untrue because look, there are crosses on the coins.
Hang on. Mm-hmm. So is he saying that Sophronius is wrong, or like saying that this is made up? It's a made up source.
Sophronius is just making things up himself for his audience, or maybe it's a made up source, or whatever. It can't be true. He
because
won't specifically say it because there's crosses on coins. So all the sources that say that they are of the beast, that they are, God fighters, that say they're blasphemers, that they hate the cross over and over and over again. They hate the cross. They hate Christ. All of these sources, they're just wrong because look at this coin with this cross on it. What I say about it is necessarily true. What the people of the time say about it is untrue. What all of these sources say about it is untrue. What I say about it must be true because didn't you just hear my wonderful story about the meaning of crosses on coins?
Yeah, just to be clear, Jay will give different post hoc reasons to discard this source or that source. It's not always the same reasons, right? This source isn't talking about Muhammad. It doesn't mention his name. It's talking about something else. Or this source says Muhammad, but it's some other figure. It's some unknown random tribal rebel trying to attack the empire or whatever. Or if he really has trouble explaining it, he'll say this is a much later source that was redacted back to the 7th century. So he'll always come up with a reason to discard the source, but what he is actually doing is discarding the source, not taking it seriously, just as he did with the coins there earlier, right? He says, we know Muawiyah is a Christian, so it doesn't matter that he's making Zoroastrian coins. Why do we know he's a Christian? Well, the only reason, as far as I know, that Jay says he's a Christian is because of the cross coin. So it's just really inconsistent. Take the evidence you want that fits your story. And then since we know that that's the truth, all the other evidence can be discarded based on some post hoc reasoning.
And honestly, it does make me angry to have ancient Christians who are undergoing, some of these guys are like, my brother was killed. Nothing to do with Islam. They're mocking crosses. They're humiliating people. They're doing all of these horrible things. They're stealing our churches. Well, Muslims don't steal churches. Like, it just at a bone deep level to the people of that time who were facing such horrors. And then you have Jay Smith going, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. These people were Christians. None of these things happened. They weren't persecuted. Come on. None of this is true because of this coin that I give meaning to. It makes me really deeply outraged on behalf of the ancient Christians who had to undergo this.
Jerusalem, speaking to his people, or Jay Smith's assertions about what the appearance of a coin means. Muawiyah removed crosses from coins, which caused people to reject them, according to a Maronite Christian eyewitness. Muawiyah was forced to bring the crosses back. Are we supposed to believe that Muawiyah was a Christian, but wanted to remove the cross from the coins anyway? According to Jay Smith, having the cross means he must be a Christian, but removing it apparently means nothing.
When Abdul Malik comes, he introduces this coin here, this golden solidus. And you notice it is a picture of Heracles and his two sons, and it's a mockery of Heracles. Because what used to be crosses, the Heracles holding crosses on those orbs with his two sons, and the backside is a Byzantine cross, which is the Byzantine Christianity. He has taken off the crosses out of the orbs, and he has made a mockery of the Byzantine cross. He has eradicated the crosspiece. Now, in doing that, he causes a huge reaction from the Byzantines, and they go to war with him. He actually beats them in the war. And what does he do? He then introduces this coin here, and there's a picture of himself on the coin, and the
Hang on. So he acknowledged that people had a problem with removing the cross, and that this would lead to serious problems.
Yep.
Rewind this a little bit.
Eradicated the crosspiece. Now, in doing that, he causes a huge reaction from the Byzantines, and they go to war with him. He actually beats them in the war. And what does he do? He then introduces this coin here, and there's a picture of himself on the coin, and the Shahada is introduced.
Abdul Malik felt he had the power to disfigure the cross, even though it would provoke a strong reaction from the Romans, and he was right. This time, a caliph did have the power, so he first disfigured the crosses and then introduced the Shahada coin. The gold coin with the Shahada instead of the cross was first struck in 693. There is a Christian document written soon after this, as if it is a prophecy from before this coinage change, describing it, and it states that the rulers will strike coins with the name of the beast on it. The names on this coin are those of Muhammad and Allah, and thus it believes that either Muhammad or Allah is the name of the beast. J. Smith imagines that Muhammad was a recognizable title of Jesus to Christians. The Shahada is just supposed to be an anti-Trinitarian statement about Jesus. Allah would have been accepted as a reference to God, according to him. If so, how could a literate Christian call either Jesus or God the name of the beast?
Okay, so let me make sure I understand that. So Jay's objection to the idea of the cross on coins is that Muslim leaders wouldn't have had a cross on coins. They would have wanted their own religion on the coins. But then he admits that when it actually happened, there was a huge uproar and they had to fight a war to get their own coin in place, which means that obviously there would have been a problem before that if you tried to take the cross off coins. And you pointed out, well, we have evidence they did do that. They did try. They did try before Abdul Malik. Abdul Malik was eventually to a point where he was powerful enough to go ahead and do it and say, okay, whatever you guys want to do, I'll deal with it. And they actually fight. He wins. And then he puts out a coin that has Muhammad and the Shahada. And so you've got the Shahada, so you've got Allah. And then Christians start saying, you see, we told you they were going to put the mark of the beast on coins. And so you pointed out that according to Jay, the Shahada is fine with people during this time. The name Muhammad to them is just a reference to Jesus. And Allah would have just been an Arabic word for God. So what is there on the coin that Christians of the sort that Jay says were around during that time, what is there that they would have possibly even called the name of the beast or the mark of the beast?
Yeah. Well, it does say specifically the name of the beast is on these coins. So either Allah or Muhammad has to be the name of the beast. Jay does say that these are anti-Trinitarian, which he calls, for some reason, he relabels Trinitarianism, like the Trinitarian orthodoxy, as Byzantine Christianity, which is also just a troubling terminology choice, massively troubling terminology choice, but that he does say that they are anti-Trinitarian. He phrases it usually as Byzantine, but the name would still be Jesus and God, neither of which could be called the name of the beast by any Christian.
Mm-hmm. So this basically means that people during the time recognize, and I have to say, I'd have to say Muhammad. If I had to guess, hey, what would people have more of a problem with, Allah or Jesus? I could see them having a problem with either Muhammad or Allah. What would they have a bigger problem with? I would guess Muhammad. But according to Jay's theory, this is just something that Christians called Jesus during this time. So why would they have had a problem?
He says that both are Mahmud still. It's still all Mahmud. But Mahmud and Muhammad, even on the Dome of the Rock, that's all Jesus. So whichever you say, it's Jesus. It's Jesus' name. Everybody knew it was Jesus' name. People have been calling Jesus this from ancient times, before Jesus even existed. This is what everybody called the Messiah, even though we have zero evidence of that. So when it says, they would have read it as the Messiah is the messenger of Allah, and then gone, that's the name of the beast, according to this.
So if Jay's theory were correct, about what Christians, even what we would consider heretical Christians who are running that area at that time, it would make sense if Abdul Malik takes the cross off the coin. It would make sense for people to object and go, oh my goodness, how dare you take the cross off a coin? That would make sense. But according to Jay's theory, they shouldn't have a problem with Muhammad or Allah. And therefore, they should have never, it would have never crossed their minds to say, how dare you put the name of the beast on your coins? Those would have been perfectly acceptable terms that Christians would have loved. They would have said, oh, you took the cross off, but at least they've got Jesus on there still, called Muhammad. They would have been fine with it. And so the fact that they weren't, and they had a problem, seriously calls into question his entire theory about what Christians thought during this time. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Interesting.
And people are, Jay Smith's fans in there have been saying hideous things about me throughout. But, now you're a linguist. Now you're this. Now you're that. Bring me the text from before the 7th century that uses Muhammad or Jesus or Mohammedim or whatever
MHMD,
as a
right? Yep.
title, MHMD as a title or a replacement for the name of Jesus. It is required that you see this word and you go, that is Jesus, and that is what all Christians did. Give me the ample evidence that Christians went, if they heard this or saw this, would go, my goodness, that's recognizable. That's Jesus. Give me the source. Don't say, I'm stupid. Don't say, I don't know what I'm talking about. That's not acceptable. That's very childish. Give me the source. I am bringing to you counterfactual sources from the 7th century. Things from this time period, from the mouths and the hands and buried in the earth. I'm not saying this because I'm telling you a new story about these things. These are physical things that exist, and they must be explained, and treating them with contempt is just not acceptable.
Let's see. Where'd this go? Okay, here we have. What do you think about this, Mary? Dr. J. Smites, PhD, says the Quran was originally a book of hymns, misspelled hymns, about Jesus Christ, but was corrupted by Uthman the pagan and others. That's why officially there were 700 different versions of it. I make imams go mad.
Name one hymn. Bring me the hymn in Aramaic. Which hymn? One, anyone. It doesn't exist. It is not plausibly a book of hymns. There is one surah that has kind of, it's totally in form, it's totally Arab. It's not at all Aramaic, but it has kind of the cadence, sort of, maybe of a hymn, but it's the original composition of the writer. It does not have an original. So no, it's just not, I mean, people are like, this is originally Aramaic liturgy. I have searched and searched and searched every person who says this, and they just are like, because I say so. Where is the Aramaic? Yep. It doesn't exist.
And it would seem,
this comment is so crazy.
One second. It would seem to be connected to the idea that Muhammad comes from Mahmad, which was about Jesus, and therefore, when in the few times that the Quran mentions Muhammad, this is actually Jesus, and therefore this is stuff that's about Jesus, and therefore it must have been something else that was circulating before then. So it's kind of you got some rhymes and meters and stuff, so it must have been like a early hymn book or something like that. Is that how all this stuff's connected?
Yeah, well, they're kind of independent theories for a lot of people. They're not necessarily connected, but the idea that it's in Aramaic. Here's the thing. A lot of Syriac Christians said, you just stole stuff from us and then corrupted it and made Islam. But that evolved into a polemic that there's a secret liturgy somewhere and you guys are just have a corrupted version of it and you don't even know what you're saying. But it's just not true. Nice polemic, just not true.
Mm-hmm. And I was just gonna say that comment was so crazy. I wasn't even sure if it was actually serious or if it was a
I was
joke.
wondering-
What do you
I
mean
was
there's
wondering too.
700 different official versions, right? What do you mean 700 different official versions? And are there 700 different official versions of hymns? I mean, it just didn't make any sense. So I don't know if it's a joke or what, but weird stuff.
Not a joke. And Muslims want to be in
yeah, I
Jerusalem for
don't
the
know.
same reason that they want to steal the Hagia Sophia. They want to steal everything that belongs to anyone else because they have nothing of their own.
Let's see. Hang on. Hey, we've got Mel. We've got Mel here who says Augustine interpreted the Song of Songs as being about Christ and the church. Thaddeus and Mary know better. I agree. There have been lots of Christians.
Go for it.
There have been lots of Christians.
Yeah.
There have been lots of.
Hang on.
There have been lots of Christians who interpreted Song of Songs as being about Christ and the church.
Yeah.
Mel, we're gonna be talking about this tomorrow with Jai and DOC. I have to say, and I haven't seen all the evidence, so hopefully it's all there tomorrow. And Mel, you're welcome to join us and present your evidence. As far as I've been able to see, just from seeing people use this, it's, hey, there were Christians who said, just as there were Jews who said that it's about Yahweh and Israel, there are Christians who said it's about Christ and the church. Therefore, well, the entire book is really about Christ and the church. How do you get to, therefore, Song of Solomon 5:16, they took a word out of the Hebrew, even though they would have been reading it in Greek or Latin or something like that, depending on who you're talking about. And therefore, like, they heard this and they said, hey, we like that part in 5:16. Therefore, let's go to the Hebrew, even though we don't know Hebrew, even though people don't know Hebrew around here, but let's go to the Hebrew and circulate this as a name for Jesus. If you want to say, well, your evidence is, well, they said the book is about Jesus. Well, therefore, I should be able to take any word in the entire book and say, Christians use this as a name for Jesus.
Yeah.
If you're gonna say Christians use this as a name for Jesus, you should be able to show where they're using that as a name for Jesus. And it would be very simple. Look, here's a church father calling Jesus Mahmud. Here's another church father calling Jesus Mahmud. Here's another church father calling Jesus Mahmud. That's kind of what I've seen people asking for. I just haven't seen that. And anytime it's brought up, I say, oh, but they said there were Christians who said Song of Songs is about Jesus. Yeah, I get that. You can't just go to a random word and therefore say, oh, therefore they used it as a title. You could pick any word in the book that's about the beloved in the book and say, therefore Christians use this in the Hebrew as a title for Jesus. I would say, where's your, show us that. I mean, keep in mind, if you're saying the church fathers are all aware of this and Augustine's doing this and they're using Mahmud and that this is going on for centuries until they're using it in Arabia and everywhere else, seems like you should have a reference to that somewhere beyond just, oh, they said, Song of Solomon is about Jesus. So anyway, that would be my, I don't know enough about the issue to be commenting beyond what I just said. Based on what I've seen, this seems like an insanely weak argument and requires like nothing but speculation, massive speculation, which you can't. Guess what? You can speculate on things and can actually be right, not have the evidence, and you could be right. But in that case, you should present it as like it's possible that this happened, even though I have no evidence for it, and here we know that they were using Mahmud as a term for You should not be presenting it like that. That would be terrible. That would be terrible to do that. So that's kind of the point. But again, I know nothing. You're welcome to join us tomorrow. We're going to have Jai and DOC, and you can present your evidence. If you want to show Christians using Mahmud, I would love to see it. And guess what? I would agree with you. I would agree with you. If you show me church fathers calling Jesus Mahmud, I would say, okay, they're calling Mahmud. And then if you could build a case that that's where Muhammad came from, or that's where references in the Quran to Muhammad came from, guess what? I'd agree with you. But all I'm seeing now is like wild speculation. So that's my view.
Yep.
And furthermore,
very long explanation from there,
Augustine,
David.
Is there in fact a source from Augustine that says this about Song of Songs 15:6?
15.
Or is it
5:16?
5:16, blah. 5:16. Or is it maybe pseudo-Augustine and not even from Augustine?
Well, okay. So, they wrote in Latin and Greek. That is correct, Mel. you still don't get this. I've tried to explain this to you.
I don't see how anyone, Mel, I don't know you very well. If you're not getting this, I'm just being honest here. I don't trust anything you're saying if you're not getting this, because I do not trust. Like, so you're saying they wrote in Latin and Greek? Yeah, that's true. If they're reading something, it's going to be in Latin and Greek. If you want to say they know Hebrew, fine. Why are you saying, since they interpreted Song of Solomon as about Jesus, therefore they must have taken this particular word in this particular verse and used that as a title for Jesus? You could pick any word, according to you, you could pick any word in Song of Solomon that it's about the beloved and say that's about Jesus, and then make I would regard it as a total speculative leap and say, therefore, since this verse they think is about Jesus, therefore they must have not used the Greek word, not used the Latin word. They must have done some research and figured out the Hebrew word and then applied the Hebrew word as a title. And this Hebrew word must have circulated all throughout Christendom to where everyone's using it as a title. Oh, by the way, I can't give you one reference for anyone ever using it that way, but books about Song of Solomon, so it must have happened. Okay, again, if you want to say that, just, hey, here's my theory, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. You should not be saying, okay, this is where the word Muhammad came from. This is what Muhammad, they must have been using it, and that's where the word Muhammad came. That I regard as like massively, like insanely sloppy. Like, do not tell me anything. You could be the greatest genius in the world. If you're arguing like that, I don't know enough about you to notice a pattern. If this is how you're arguing, I would not take you seriously ever. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying you either have some good evidence or you've got nothing and it's just blind speculation. If it's just blind speculation and you expect us to take it seriously, and that's what you're going out and doing with other people who are not able to think critically about this, and they think, oh, this really smart guy's telling us stuff, so let's just go with it. That's Dawa level, man. That's Dawa level. And I'm not trying to be mean. I have no reason to be hostile. I have no reason to be mean or hostile. If this is your action, keep in mind, maybe you have more and I'm just not seeing it. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you actually have all this evidence. Again, welcome to join us tomorrow. You can lay out your evidence. If you've got the evidence, I will say, so you do have good evidence for it. So maybe you're right. Maybe you're right about this. Based on what I'm seeing, this is terrible. Based on what I'm saying, this is terrible.
Yeah. And you cannot say, I've learned a vocabulary word named metonymy, and that will help me. Metonymy means that you actually do use that word to refer to someone else. So if you say the crown does such and such, you use that for king, you actually have to use that word. It doesn't help you to find some other word for title. It has to be used in place of his name. You must find examples of this being used in place of Jesus in texts. Not just that Jesus is described this way. Yeah, he's golden head, whatever. If it is even attributed to Jesus, you must find it used in place of his name, the way we use Christ or Messiah, because that is what your theory requires. Mm-hmm. You require that all Christians would recognize this.
So Mel has backed away from this a bit, and he's now saying it's not a title, it's a description. Okay.
Where?
Well, word. Right, word. The word is a title for Jesus, but it's translated in English as the word. Right, we don't use the Greek term for it. I mean, maybe occasionally someone will say logos, but generally people will say the word. Right. Mm-hmm. Now, what you're suggesting, here's what you're actually suggesting: that this is a description of Jesus, which I'm not even going to agree with that because I haven't found any church fathers that even says it's a description of Jesus. But hypothetically, it's a description of Jesus that is, common knowledge, right? Just like the word obviously is actually a title, but a description of Jesus that is common knowledge. What you're saying is if they were fine in translating it into Greek, they're fine in translating it into Latin, they used the appropriate term for desirable. Then when it came to Arabic, for some reason, they decided not to translate it as an Arabic word for desire or desirable, but instead go back to the Hebrew and transliterate it into Latin into Arabic where it made no sense. It was just random letters. That is actually what your suggestion is. Now, you said Augustine, right? This was the example you chose to go to. There is a work attributed to Augustine that quotes 516. In that passage, it is in a work called On the Christian Life. It probably isn't actually by Augustine, but someone wrote it, right? So it's relevant regardless of whether it was Augustine or not. In that book, the whole book, as by the name of it might give you a clue, is about how to live a Christian life. And it's applied not to Jesus, not even to God, but to the believers. The believers become the desirable through the work of God, sure, but in context, the word Jesus isn't even there. Yet somehow this is a special title, or a special description of Jesus. I have it in front of me, right? A man of God should so appear and conduct himself that there should be no one who would not desire to see him, no one who would not wish to hear him, no one who, having seen him, would not believe that he is a son of God, so that truly in this case the prophetic words would be fulfilled. His throat is most sweet, and he is all lovely. That is your reference to Song of Solomon in the both the Greek and the Latin. The throat, or the mouth, and the Hebrew is translated as throat. So that is the same passage. It is a quote of it. But what is it saying? The prophet predicts that through, and I get this from other church fathers as well, through the work of the mouth or throat, the head, the body is transformed and becomes desirable. The church becomes desirable. If anything, it's a title for the church, not for Jesus in the works of the church fathers. But again, you're saying that this description, instead of using an Arabic word for desirable, they decided to transliterate the Hebrew, even though they didn't do that in Greek or Latin. It's just a really, really strange argument.
Yeah, I agree. This is, I mean, just imagine. So I'm on Song of Solomon, chapter 1. So just imagine, right? Verse 16, she says, "How handsome you are, my beloved. Oh, how charming. And our bed." Okay, so I could just, following Mel's reasoning, I could say, oh, she says he's charming. But you had Christians who interpreted this as all about Jesus. So Jesus is charming. And therefore, I'll go to the Hebrew word and take the Hebrew word for charming there, and then say, Christians use this as a title. And if I can find anyone in the world, any ruler's name that sounds kind of like the Hebrew word for charming, I can say, oh, see, that ruler didn't exist, and he's just based on this title that Christians must have taken from Song of Solomon because they think it's about Jesus. Mel, if you do not realize what that sounds like in the political sphere, you sound like Candace Owens. I'm just pointing it out, right? If this were the political realm, social commentary, political commentary and stuff, you would sound like Candace Owens, because that is like beyond. I'm trying to think of stuff beyond outside of Dawa that is that completely sloppy. One more, and I'll say it again. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you've got evidence. If you're just saying people took Song of Solomon as references to Jesus and thinking that connects you to how we explain the origin of Muhammad, my goodness, I did not know that this was this bad. I did not know that this is what's actually going on, as far as how this is way worse than I thought, guys, if this is how they're arguing. Is this how they're arguing?
There are AI hallucination quotes that they use to back themselves up sometimes too. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Oh boy. All right. So everyone, we're going to be going through this.
I got a video.
Okay.
Yep. You're going to go through it on David's channel tomorrow with Giant Daughter Christ. And I have a video on it as well, a short scripted video that'll be out Saturday, Sunday-ish range on this topic, where I go through every one of the sources that are on Jay's slide. I specifically targeted Jay's slide, but if Mel has other sources that he wants me to address, I'd be happy to do that in a follow-up video. I specifically look at the ones that are on Jay's slide, and in every single case, surprisingly, right, this is actually surprising to me, I would have guessed you could probably find a church father who used the word desirable to refer to Jesus, because the standard way they interpret scripture is everything is allegorically Christ in one way or another. But it turns out the specific word desirable, there isn't a church father that I can find, pre-Muhammad anyway, that attributes that specific title or that specific description or that specific whatever you want to call it to Jesus, in not just in Hebrew, but in translation either, right? I just can't find any evidence whatsoever that anyone used this term as a description of Jesus. Yes, the book is about Jesus, according to the church fathers. Yes, it's about the bride and bridegroom. The church is the bride, and they all attribute that particular phrase not to the bridegroom, but to the bride.
Yeah. So that much wouldn't be in dispute. But my goodness, everything after that, everything beyond the church fathers, there were church fathers who believed that this is about Jesus and the church, or Jesus and the soul, depending on who you go to. Therefore, that particular verse, they went to it and they didn't go to the Greek or the Latin. They decided to go with the Hebrew on that, and then they spread it around as a title, and we don't have any reference to it, but we know it was there, and we know it was all over the place, and that Christians were using it left and right. And that this is actually Muhammad, and that's why Muhammad is on coins, because this widely circulated, which we have no evidence for anywhere. That is beyond Dawa level. That's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's,
again, I'm open to the possibility. Of
I am too. I'm just saying, if that is the case, I
haven't found it though.
That's terrible.
I haven't found it.
If there's more to the case, I will assess. I will reevaluate my position and adjust my confidence accordingly based on the evidence. But right now, what I've seen is really, really bad. But we'll take a closer look tomorrow. Jai and DOC have kind of been through this, and Mel, again, welcome to join us tomorrow. Or if you have evidence that we're missing and we need to examine, you can send that to us. We'd be happy to take a look at it. If what you think is evidence is saying there were early Christians who took Song of Solomon as about Jesus, and you think that's the evidence that proves the rest of your case, oh my goodness, do not bother sending anything, because that would be like beyond terrible. Okay. All right. Let's back to this video.
Supposed to be an anti-Trinitarian statement about Jesus. Allah would have been accepted as a reference to God, according to him. If so, how could a literate Christian call either Jesus or God the name of the beast? It is very simple. J. Smith's arguments have no credibility. In fact, this is hardly the first Christian writer to associate the faith of the Arabs with the religion of the beast.
The Shahada is La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. What does that mean in English?
There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger.
So this is the Shahada that we think is the introduction to the name Muhammad. Actually, it's not. And the reason we know it's not, and we're going to see that when we get to the Dome of the Rock.
J. Smith is claiming this is the first time Muhammad appears on a coin, and its only earlier use is on the Dome of the Rock. But we know this is not true because we have the Uthmanic coin from the half-century before, and from non-coin sources we have examples of Muhammad's name written in Arabic, Aramaic, Coptic, Armenian, and Greek by this point.
All right, what are we looking at here? We've got dates over on the left, 634, 634, 636, all the way down to the 670s. We've got the source, and so the X means that, like, if it's under Arabs, you mean it contains a reference to Arabs, right?
Yes, and to be clear, that Saracens and Taiye are identified as by ancient people who called people this as being synonyms with Arab. So I am believing the ancient people who say that it means Arab when I mark it as them indicating that they are Arabs. Now, I have Mujahir because that is, like all the Mujahirs are Arabs in other sources, but it isn't a synonym. And desert, Arabs are from deserts, but it's not a synonym. So I just wrote a word for those. So I am being careful.
So you're pointing out that you have multiple references for that second category there, which is Muhammad, and you have it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, all before Abdul Malik.
Yes. And that it never refers to Jesus in any of those sources, and also that they are considered to have anti-Christian or against Christ. Their theology, it is opposition to the Christians and to Christ and all of these other sources.
Just about. There's a couple that don't have an X there.
Well, in all the sources that have an X under the last column, rather.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Jay outlines the anti-Christian polemics on the third gold coin that Abdul Malik mints, but then he states this.
This is an attack against Trinitarian Christianity. This is an anti-Trinitarian attack. These are Christian coins, actually. These are not Muslim coins. All the Muslims say this is proof that that's Islam. No, this is Abdul Malik, who is an anti-Trinitarian. He's attacking the Trinity. He's attacking Jesus' divinity. He believes as a Christian that Jesus is a prophet, but he doesn't believe that Jesus is God.
Jay has decided to make the word Christian meaningless and endorse.
So now not only is the actual people who made the crossed coins, now their successors are also Christians, even though they're printing coins with the Shahada on it, even though they've removed all crosses from their coins. They're just doing this. Jay says they're Christians. I honestly don't actually know what he's drawing that on, other than it's his theory that they're Christians. And he's saying, all this is just Christians who don't believe that Jesus is God and don't believe that he died on the cross and don't believe that he's the Son of God. And they're just giving anti-Trinitarian polemics, saying he's just a prophet. But they're Christians. They're Christians somehow. I mean,
it makes me furious.
It baffles my mind, right? It baffles my mind that somehow, because he believes that they're Christians, doesn't matter what they put on the coin, right? They put a Shahada on it. And he says that there's additional anti-Christian polemics on the coin. But he said, no, they're just anti-Trinitarian. These are Christians printing these coins.
So we following that reasoning, we could just say Muslims today are anti-Trinitarian Christians.
Yes. Yeah. And they are the better followers of Christ according to them, because they say that Jesus is only a prophet and isn't God. He's just hung up on this word Muslim, and he is affirming that Muslims are Christians. He is affirming that Muslims today are Christians, and he keeps doing this, and it gets worse. And this is why I started speaking out. This is it. This is the thing. He is taking these anti-Christian polemics that say that there was a debate about whether or not Jesus Christ was God, and about whether or not he died on a cross, about whether or not he's just a prophet in the 7th century. Some people thought this, some people thought that, and they're all Christians. And Jay is teaching this to people. This is not acceptable. They are not Christians if they do not believe death, burial, resurrection of Jesus Christ, our Lord God.
We've got a response here. Aviel says, before Muawiyah, no source mentions Muhammad, not coins, inscriptions, or chronicles. His name first appears in 691.
No.
Well, even Jay would disagree with that, because he says MHMD is on a coin from before 691. But Mary's slide.
We got this slide here.
I mean, you could say it's not Muhammad, but there is, in fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's a few more that are after 670 or 676, wherever this cuts off, that are still before 691.
Yeah. Pseudo-Sebios spells out the name entirely. And to cope with this, because this is not compatible with their theory, Mel has decided that the name is just interpolated in, even though you can look at the manuscript and it's not an interpolation. It's not an interpolation. It is written there in the manuscript in the place where it belongs. It is not interpolated, but he needs to reject Muhammad because he's latched onto this weird Mahmad theory. No, it's there and it's spelled out. And the various odd things, well, it's not spelled exactly the way it is in Arabic or the way I want it to be spelled in this language. Or if it is in Arabic, it doesn't have vowel pointings yet, so we're just going to say it's whatever we want it to be. None of that's acceptable. That's not acceptable historical practice. You can't just go, there are all these people talking about this guy, but I don't want it to be this guy, so it's 5 different guys or no guys or no one at all, and maybe it's Jesus here, and here it's this, and here it's that. That does not follow proper practice.
One second. After we just responded to this, did Aviel just post his same comment over again?
Yep.
That's what'll get you blocked, Aviel. You're just going to keep saying something that's been like refuted in front of. If you want to say this is wrong and correct it and say, no, that would be fine. If you're just going to spam the same thing over and over again, even after it's been corrected, and you're not going to say why the correction is wrong, you got to go. You got to go. We're not interested in this sort of nonsense here. This is getting bad, guys. So goodbye, Aviel.
Again,
come back when you have back when you're actually ready to interact with something.
Jay won't even deny that MHMD appears in these sources. He'll just some of them he'll say are written after the time, and others he'll say are other random people who happen to have the same name. So even he doesn't deny that it exists before 691. He just says none of them are the prophet of Islam.
Well, Abiel rejects it, and that's all that matters. All right, let's go back to this.
This is an anti-Trinitarian attack. These are Christian coins, actually. These are not Muslim coins. All the Muslims say this is proof that that's Islam. No, this is Abdul Malik, who is an anti-Trinitarian. He's attacking the Trinity. He's attacking Jesus' divinity. He believes as a Christian that Jesus is a prophet, but he doesn't believe that Jesus is God.
Jay has decided to make the word Christian meaningless and endorses the idea that Muslims, if they merely don't use the word Muslims, can be considered followers of Christ if they deny the Trinity and Christ's divinity because they consider him to be a prophet. This should be alarming to faithful Christians. The fathers would reject any heresy as being Christian, and here Jay is saying Jehovah's Witnesses are Christian, the Baha'i are Christian, Madame Blavatsky is a Christian. Everyone is a Christian as long as they consider Jesus to speak for God in some way. This is not how Christianity is defined by a believing Christian, and no Christian should have patience for this statement. Muhammad did indeed come claiming to be a follower of Christ, who rejected Christ's message, Christ's full identity, and Christ's ministry. And Jay Smith is explicitly endorsing the view that such a person could be called a Christian or follower of Christ. During his recap, Jay Smith says,
so the coins tell us exactly what's going on. What the coins are telling us, and let's just look at one more slide here. What the coins are telling us, that all the curly coins have a Christian identity. This is an internecine Christian attack. These coins are telling us that there is a debate that's happening between the Trinitarians and the anti-Trinitarians.
According to Jay Smith, then, Orthodox Christianity was not established by the 7th century. There was a continuous debate going on about the identity of Christ among Christians, and some Christians denied he was God. Now, as I have pointed out, all of Jay Smith's evidence is false. This is also false. All of it comes from writers who are anti-Christian and who are trying to leverage Islam to argue against the idea that there ever has been clear teaching from Christ about his identity, clear Christian doctrine, Orthodox Christian faith, or a true Christian church. That is why Jay Smith is using language of an internal debate and uncertainty among Christians about whether Jesus Christ is God or just another prophet, and whether or not Christ was even crucified more than 600 years into the church's history.
There is a debate that's happening between the Trinitarians and the anti-Trinitarians.
Jay Smith's approach to polemics against Islam is harmful. In his eagerness to give any useful polemic against Islam, he slanders the Christian church and the foundations of true teaching that the Christian faith rests upon, and he spins stories that have no basis in fact, which rely on careful framing of cherry-picked evidence that moments of independent investigation reveal to be illegitimate. Christians should not be associated with the mishandling of truth. Please subscribe to see more from this series, where we will give the rest of the evidence that Jay Smith conceals, which show that Jay Smith's arguments are not ones that any Christian should be repeating.
Just want to point out, I really thought this live stream was going to be, here's what Jay's argument is about the coins, and here's Mary calling into question his interpretation of some of the evidence. So maybe don't use the coin argument with such complete confidence. But make your own decision. Make your own decision on how seriously you take this. I thought it was going to be something like that, where, okay, if you have a lot of confidence in this argument, maybe dial it back a little because there are some other things to consider. This was extremely disturbing. This was extremely disturbing. How absolutely carelessly some of this stuff is being used. Very disturbing.
And I'll say this is, in my opinion, probably their second best argument. The coins are, at least on surface, are interesting. Most of the other stuff is pure speculation with no basis. The best being that, Mecca is not well attested to. That would be probably the best argument, but far from sufficient, right? Far from sufficient for saying Muhammad didn't exist, let alone that all these people claiming to be Muslims or that we now label as Muslims are really Christians. And there was just an internal debate and blah, 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 blah. I think this is really the best they have for the suggestion that these were Christians. And it's terrible. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's terrible.
Pretty terrible.
And I want to be clear. This is why I asked to debate Robert Spencer, is because of Jay Smith saying this, because Jay Smith will not engage with me. He will not engage with me on this. He will not be faced with the claims that he is making.
Well, hang on.
Anyone who's knowledgeable. Yeah.
Hey, one second. Jay's been pushing this, and he's had debates and so on. So, you willing to? What would you like to debate Jay on this? Like, did Muhammad exist or what?
Well, Jay has said he challenged Raymond Ibrahim to a debate on did Muhammad exist. And then he said that the subject that he has spent the last 30 years of his life studying, he is not ready to debate and would rather debate on, is the Quran from the 7th century or is Mecca from the 7th century? So I have offered debate repeatedly, is the Quran from the 7th century? I am convinced at this point that Jay Smith knows that this is not a defensible position against anyone who has a familiarity with the topics, and that is why he is consistently refusing to debate this, even as he's running around going, no one will debate it, no one will debate it, no one will engage me on this, no one will. The Quran is from the 7th century. It is. And he will not debate me on this topic. Even though he says it's when he's ready. He's ready.
Right. And if he does that, then you'll do Mecca as well. And
I will do Mecca.
Mary and I challenged Jay to a debate on historical Muhammad 2 years ago. He tentatively agreed to do it, actually, at the time. Scheduling didn't work out. I'm not accusing him of running or whatever, but scheduling didn't work out. He got busy, decided he wanted to work on his book, which, as far as I know, hasn't been published 2 years later, but that's neither here nor there. He wanted to concentrate on other things. Perfectly legitimate. We had no problem with it. We didn't call him out or on it. Point is, we've been trying to engage Jay this whole time. We haven't just been attacking him in isolation and pretending or trying to get views, right? I've been accused of that so many times. I'm just trying to get views. That's why I'm attacking Jay. And we've been critiquing these arguments for 2 years. We didn't have the same kind of negative, horrendous response until after Mary debated Robert. And I mean, frankly, I think it's because Mary did so well in that debate. It upset a lot of people. And they're like, how dare you show that the case isn't as strong as we thought, right? How dare you show the case isn't as strong as we thought?
That's exactly what I believe happened.
Mige here says, too many Marys. Misrepresentation was all you chuck. I don't know exactly what that means.
This person declared that praiseworthy was used as a title of Jesus in the Bible.
Okay.
And I said, no, it wasn't as a title. It wasn't. And he's like, oh, well, here's a verse in which the adjective praiseworthy is used. And I'm like, that's not a title. Again, it's not a title that Christians used of Jesus. Like, oh, praiseworthy one. People wouldn't go, Mohammed, praiseworthy one. Oh, that's Jesus. No, you need a source for that. The fact that there are adjectives that are translated into English as praiseworthy is not sufficient for declaring that it was a title. And then she said, Mary's denying the Bible. Chat, look at her denying the Bible. I'm like, no, I actually know what it says, and I'm not distorting it. I'm sorry that I won't distort it for your pleasure.
Yeah, Mige, either show what I'm looking at your comments. Really, really nasty stuff. Are you a Jay fan? Because I'm just going to be honest. A lot of the fans of Jay on this issue are some of the like nastiest people I've ever seen. I mean, as far as Christians responding to other Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Mige, I'm going to give you one. I'm going to give you one more chance. Going to give you one more chance, Mige, to prove your point. What do you got?
And to be clear, I've received more nasty comments in the last 2 weeks or so since Mary debated Robert. I guess it's been a month now. In the last month since Mary debated Robert, I've gotten more nasty comments from Christians than I typically get in 6 months from Muslims. And That
Yeah.
I did not expect, right? I expected people not to be happy, to push back, say you're wrong. I did not expect people to come in and start calling names and saying I'm a grifter, I'm a fake Muslim, pretending to be a Christian. I might as well convert, go kiss my black stone. This is a third world attitude, all kinds of things, like all kinds of things being thrown at me that frankly Muslims typically don't make that kind of insults towards me. And this is how you want to represent Christ. This is how you want to represent Christianity, is that you go and attack people who are Christians just because you don't like their arguments.
All right, we have this from Hatun. Actually, that's not entirely true, because I asked Mary to debate with Jay Smith and Robert Spencer. Almost a year later, after I called her out, Mary responded she gave a date for debating Robert Spencer.
So
that is fair. We did tentatively schedule it with Robert last summer, and then it kept getting pushed back, largely because of Mary. I just want to be completely transparent.
I was doing an addition to my house, but I had asked for a debate with Jay Smith before I had ever talked to Hatun, or she had made that offer, and had tried to reschedule multiple times, tried to reach out to him, produced several videos. And then Hatun's like, okay, I'll make this happen. And I said, all right, I'd like to do Robert first, because he's got the more reasonable case and is more difficult actually to debate. And so I'm like, hey, I want to take the conservative case first. I want to do it. Well, I wasn't ready at that moment for Jay Smith.
Yeah, this is legitimate pushback, right? This is legitimate pushback. Hang on, one second. I actually had Robert on my program, right? I actually had him on my program right when he published the book. And initially the language we used was that we would debate Robert within the next month or two, right? It didn't work out. As Mary said, she got busy with her house. Our side will take full responsibility for that debate being delayed.
So you're saying you're ready to debate now?
Nonetheless, Jay, we did challenge Jay 2 years ago, and he tentatively agreed. And this was me sending an email to Jay. BCCI Hatun was not involved at all in this, right? Jay, it was in the summer. Jay said that he was currently traveling to get back to him after he was done with that. We tentatively agreed to early December. I will take full responsibility for this. I forgot to email him in December. It slipped my mind. He didn't email me either. I emailed him in January, and he said that he wasn't available.
And so I had spent
I'm not trying to distort anything. Yeah. I explicitly said I'm not accusing him of running from us. I'm just saying we have been trying to engage. We have been trying to have.
Let me finish
and to be clear, I spent a month preparing for the debate with Jay Smith because he had agreed, and then he backed out, and then he changes his theories all the time. So I have to spend another month preparing for him. So I was hoping, okay, I'll do Robert Spencer. And when I started watching his videos again, actually, I had been re-preparing for stuff because of this. And then I was like, okay, we've got to schedule this now. And actually it was like the week that I was thinking about it, Hatun was like, well, she hasn't scheduled anything with me. So I scheduled something with her right after that. I said, hey, here's the date when I will do my last reading for Robert. But I am prepared to debate the topic of Quran and the 7th century in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. So you have it here. Mary is ready to debate a topic that Jay says he wants to debate. But let me finish. Hatun's comment said she gave a date for debating Robert Spencer, but said she was not ready for a debate with Jay Smith. I haven't watched this whole live stream. I'm just taking this part, but I wanted to point out that this is not an honest representation of. They've responded since then, so if anything since then has not been accurate, then you can address that. I don't see where the rest of the comment is. And
just to be clear, I talked to Mel, and I left messages on Jay Smith's own channel, and Thaddeus also reached out to Jay Smith on his own because we had arranged it on our own previously. I did not ask Hatun to reach out on my behalf again for Jay Smith, but Thaddeus reached out to Jay Smith. Jay Smith explicitly declined debating me on the topic that he wanted, on the topic that he says he's ready. And he's not ready for Muhammad. He's ready for the Qibla, or not Qibla. So he's ready for the Quran, And he said no.
All right.
Yep, but thank you, Hatun. Thank you for allowing me to correct the timeline there. I was imprecise in my language, and I apologize about that. Nonetheless, the main point was that we've been trying to engage with Jay the whole time. We've been having these discussions on my
So it's
channel.
pretty straightforward. Hatun can set it up. She's friends with Jay, and she can set it up. Okay, so pretty easy from now on. There's an ASMR and Asmo, but that last one is Al-Zut related. Very rude and Islamophobic. What's the difference between Muhammad and the village bike? Al-Zut don't ride bikes. That's true. Very rude. For clarity, one, Gibson is not a mythicist. No, he's responded to the mythicist position, hasn't he? He believes Mo is
correct.
real. And also, the Medina is in the right place. Two, the Qibla is only one of many arguments in Quranic geography. The sin Mecca seems off. Standard Islamic narrative.
Yeah, and again, I'm fine with you saying that Mecca was somewhere else. It doesn't actually change our arguments, as you just pointed out, right? Dan Gibson, the guy who pioneered the idea that Petra was the original Mecca, believes that Muhammad was a historical figure that started the religion of Islam. So there you go.
Oh, hey,
and just so you know, I've dealt with everything in his Quranic geography, not just the Qibla argument. I have looked at it all.
Oh, this is interesting. Jay Smith being quite combative on IP's live now. Totally unprovoked. IP just asking questions, trying to learn from Jay. Let's pray for unity and humility. I mean,
I saw that coming, honestly. IP wasn't going to just allow him to put out ideas unchallenged. He was going to challenge the ideas. I saw he was going to be on IP. I was like, might not be a good day for Jay. It's interesting that he's getting combative when IP's like, asking him for verification of his information.
We all know why David has never dug into this argument. The only coins he cares about are shekels from Mossad. That's true. You talk about coins. I'm like, okay, where are the shekels at? They're like, no, we're talking about the ancient coins. I'm like, I don't care about that, man. Care about that. I want the shekels, man.
David, I thought that you hadn't looked at this argument because you need Muhammad to be real or you won't have a career. That you'll just have nothing to do because you won't be able to attack Muhammad.
No,
so you need him to be real, and that's why you believe he's real.
No, as I mentioned, I didn't take it as a ton of evidence. Even if I went with everything Jay said, I didn't take it as a tremendous amount of evidence. I said I would regard it as some confirmation because, if Muslims are ruling an area, it makes sense that they would make some Islamic coins. If still got crosses on them, I would regard that as a little confusing. But when I think about it, it's like, okay, if that's what's regarded as money during this time and you guys want to use money and you want to interact with other groups and other groups regard that as money, and if you print out just some random money and you're some new kingdom that arose and people are like, I don't know if you guys are going to last another 6 months, your money's not going to be very valuable. And so, you're a bunch of guys that just came out of the middle of the desert. You guys don't know anything about printing coins and stuff like that. So the idea that these guys would just instantly be printing Islamic coins, I didn't take as a serious argument. That's without Mary's response and so on. So just didn't think it was terribly interesting. I thought it was like a small side point or something like that. You guys are telling me this is like one of his main arguments.
Yes.
Yeah, it's near as I can tell.
It's
I
really
don't want to
the
actually say that
cornerstone.
because he hasn't said it explicitly, but in my understanding, have I looked at his arguments? This seems to be one of his best arguments, honestly.
Yeah. And it was the one that, and again, I was concerned that people were saying things that were transparently untrue because they had come from Jay Smith's channel already 2 years ago, whenever I wanted to debate him. Because I'm like, you can't keep teaching people this stuff. It's not okay. It's not cool. And I, push for the debate, Hatun's like, hey, I can arrange one. I'm like, great. I'll do that, but now I have to restudy everything because it's been a year and he changes everything that he says almost every year. He has a new spin, a new idea. And if I present him with his old idea or a refutation of it, he'll just be like, well, I don't say that anymore. So, and again, was going to debate Robert. And then when I got out of the housework and I started looking at it again, because I'm like, all right, come up with Robert, I saw the massively concerning stuff that had just become way more salient. I had actually already known that a lot of this stuff was promoted by anti-Christians who had these theories. but it was kind of under the radar. And no one was saying that these are Christians. They just don't believe in that Jesus was the Son of God or was divine or died and rose from the dead. Like, he wasn't saying that at that time. So I was also concerned that it would eventually, that people would figure out that this is where it's coming from, because I had read the original sources. But as I was getting out of the house edition and doing the prep work and everything, then I became like massively alarmed. I'm like, no, I really have to do this. I have to do this, because it's going to be like, the stuff he's teaching is, you cannot teach that Christians in the 7th century had an internal debate about whether or not Christ was God.
Mm-hmm.
You can't teach that. You can't tell people this.
And if they're extremely outraged about the cross and trying to get rid of it, so now it's Christians who don't believe Jesus is God, Son of God, or the crucifixion or anything, but we believe in Jesus as a prophet. Okay, now it's sounding like Islam, not like any even heretical Christian group.
Yes, and like, what's the
Exactly.
difference other than the word Muslim? What's the difference?
Yep. I think that's actually it. That Jay says, until the word Muslim emerges, which doesn't happen for a while. I agree with that. It doesn't happen for a while.
I agree. It doesn't.
But until you see that word, they're just Christians under a different name.
Giovanni says, question for Muslims: if you don't believe Christ was crucified, why did they steal the cross during the Crusades? Never happened. We don't even know if the Crusades were real, Giovanni, because we're just rewriting everything here. Islam is the synagogue of Baal, god of the Kaaba. Very rude.
Sure.
I don't know why people keep attacking Islam.
I
Beast, Satan, Baal, Hubal, god of Mecca and the Kaaba.
Yes.
No.
Agree.
Islam is peace. The thesis of the book is that the text of the Quran was substantially derived from Syriac Christian liturgy, the Syro-Aramaic reading of the Quran.
It is, but there's
that's Christoph Luxemburg's theory, but it doesn't hold any.
Who holds that anymore besides
just him?
No one basically.
Jay actually talks about it. It's about Jesus. All of this early Quran, it's all about Jesus. He'll say that. So he actually supports this because he says that the language of the Quran is Nabatean Aramaic, and that the Northern Arabic came from Nabatean Aramaic, and Southern Arabic came from the South Arabian language, Sabaic, none of which is true. That's like saying that Spanish didn't come from Italian. Instead, it came from French. Like, no, they're sister languages. They all came from Latin. But he makes this argument and to substantiate this and some other things. The issue is that there is no Aramaic text that matches this. There's no original source. There's no liturgy. It doesn't exist. People keep saying this, but I'm like, okay, bring me the liturgy. Bring me the hymn. And they can't.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's they'll have no problem. The mythicists will have no problem speculating on all these other sources. But when you have Muslims like Ibn Ishaq quoting earlier people, and all these guys, Tabari and so on, they're quoting Ibn Abi Hatim and all these other earlier guys, they'll say, you don't actually have the sources, therefore we're going to conclude they didn't exist. It's like, wait a minute, if Muslims don't have some source because it's just been lost, but you had other Muslims quoting it, we'll just assume the source never existed and later people are just making up all the earlier sources. But you can completely speculate on all these all these early Christian sources that we don't have anymore, and so it's like you kind of have to pick, guys. Because guess what? We have tons of Muslim references to these first century of Islam Muslims who were sharing all this information. I'd be impressed if you had that for this pre-Quranic Christian text. I'd be impressed with it. If you had a bunch of references to it, even if they're later and you don't have the original, I think, you got some good evidence there. This is weird stuff.
So Paul Anker does ask, I don't think that Jay ever argued that the original writers of the Quran were true Christians. Can he ever give us a kind of reference? If it's an internal debate between Christians, then they're all identified as Christians, first of all. Secondly, he says that the Dome of the Rock is all about Jesus, and it has quotations from the Quran in it. You can find those very easily.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go with the exact word and say he has to say true Christians, it's highly possible Jay never said that exact phrase, right? That they're true Christians.
No.
He just says they're Christians without the word true.
He repeatedly said they're Christians, and he said Abdul Malik, who was the guy who was there. So, I just wanted to point out, as far as the references on the Dome of the Rock being about Jesus, that kind of makes sense. Christians controlled that place for centuries, and so you're trying to throw it in their face because they did like doing that sort of thing. Isaiah 53:2 specifically says he was not desirable. Well, it's talking about his appearance there. Most people would interpret that as referring to his appearance, like when he's being crucified.
He means it has the same root, which it does. That word actually has the same root, ultimately. So that's why I pointed that out.
Well, and in Song of Solomon, it's about his appearance too, right? So, I mean, it's literally about
it really is. Yeah, about how sexy.
So.
No one will debate me. Haha, you see? Ignore that lady over there. No one will debate me. No, she must be a Muslim. Why? Because I say so. You see? No one will debate me. That's powerful proof.
There we go.
If we abuse each other over research, we are not Christians. You three are lovely people. Mahmoud. I don't know what.
You are all together lovely. The three of us are plural lovely because there's three of us.
Well, there you go. You actually used it right.
Nice.
And I don't want to abuse Jay. I just don't want him to teach this anymore. Can't you teach something else? Why is this what you've decided to make your thing? I know you had a class that you really liked of Hotley, whatever his name is, once, who was highly skeptical. But there are so many other arguments to make that.
And Jay has made historically.
Yes,
right?
He's made
all kinds of arguments against Islam.
Yeah, my thing is, if you want to just adjust your confidence level to what the evidence is. If you want to present something that is completely speculative, that you think, well, I don't have any evidence for it, but I think this could have been the case, I have zero problem with that, right? Just present it as, I think this might have been the case. Not, and we know that. That's extremely misleading, and it's not just you, because you are influencing tons of other Christians who, and this is what Thaddeus and Mary have been pointing out, these Christians are going to hear you with complete confidence. They're not going to go, most of them are not going to go look into this and say, let me go verify this. They're going to say, aha, here's great new stuff I can use on my Muslim friend. And they're going to run out there, and guess what? It may actually work, because the Muslim friend has never heard any of this stuff. And that Muslim friend may be like, wow, I never thought of that. Oh my goodness, really? I mean, they were Christians. There was no Muhammad. Oh my goodness. I guess I'll leave Islam. I guess I'll become a Christian. And then what happens down the road when they watch something like this, where we actually go through the evidence and find out it did not warrant the level of confidence that you portrayed it with. And then, oh my goodness, is this what Christian apologists do? They just completely misrepresent the evidence and thump their chests with tons of confidence and pretend that they're saying something really powerful. And as long as they exude confidence, everyone around them just goes along. What's that sound like? That sounds like dawah, which we mock for doing that. We do not want to become that, ladies and gentlemen.
And you can't select. If you have a wide tray with all this evidence on it, you can't just pick out the pieces that you like and ignore the others. If you are going to say that there is evidence for something, you must use all of the evidence and integrate all the evidence into your theories. It's very easy to come up with an excuse for throwing out this here, this there, this there. But once you've done that to practically everything, that is a problem. This is such an issue, especially when at the end of the day, what he's teaching is that in the 6th century, well, at any time, the apostles did not teach that Jesus Christ was God. And so it was an internal Christian debate whether or not Jesus was God or not. No, it wasn't. Anyone who didn't recognize that Jesus Christ was God was outside of Christianity. They were, from the beginning, a heretic. You have to recognize both his deity and his humanity in the incarnation, or you're outside the circle. And when they talked about heresies, they didn't mean like John of Damascus called it a heresy. Guess what he also called a heresy? Judaism. He also called the Saracen paganism, or not Saracen, excuse me, the Scythian paganism is also a heresy according to him. He just meant any false religion. That's how he used it. You can't say that he's affirming they're Christians any more than he affirmed that the Jews were Christians.
All right, so the next debate is about to turn up. I did want to show the little preview that Jai and DOC posted about what we'll be talking about tomorrow. But these last couple super chats, the Christian Dawa Wars, you mubahala yet, bro? Yeah, that's what we're gonna have to do. Jay brings great focus on history that otherwise tends to get glossed over. He just gets like Sam sometimes. All of you have taught me so much. We don't have a problem with bringing focus on history. We have a problem with being extremely sloppy with arguments. And then if you are using a lot of speculation, but you sound completely confident and you're convincing people based on your confidence and not based on the evidence, we'd have a problem with that. The HMD title is most likely based on that of the prophet Daniel, who had revelations from Gabriel. Muslims plagiarize this for their fake prophet. For example, Daniel 10 through 11 in the original Hebrew. Yeah, that's what Muslims out in the desert were doing. They're, hey, let's take this prophecy from Daniel and let's invent this. Come on, dude. Seriously. Come on. Give up that nonsense, man. It's weird, wild stuff. Now, AP just posted, hey, be sure to raid the debate. I'm not sure exactly how to do that. We're going to play this little clip.
Just post the link. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. If I post the link and then we all click on it, jump over there, that will turn into a raid. Okay, we'll try that. We'll watch this little preview of what we're going to cover tomorrow, and it's short from Jai and DOC, and then we will raid the debate, ladies and gentlemen. We will raid that. So watch this, and I'll get ready for the raid. I'll look up the link and stuff. And here we go.
In some ways, this is what we call peer review. I'm not saying that Kai and Daughter of Christ are peers and that they're at the same level that we have, because we've been working on this for many years.
Previously on our channel.
What does Muhammad mean in Arabic? It is not a name, it is a title. It means the praised one, the blessed one, the anointed one, or even the Messiah.
Okay, guys.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It does not. There's no one in the world, no one is going to tell you that it means the Messiah or the anointed one or even the blessed one.
So to clarify, Mahmed doesn't mean blessed one or anointed one. I did try to make that clear to Jay that Oleg meant linked by association.
What does Muhammad mean in Arabic? It means the praised one, the blessed one, the anointed one. St. Ambrose, writing in Syriac, talks about this Muhammad from Song of Solomon 560, and he says this is a title for Jesus Christ, the anointed one, the Messiah. That's what the anointed one is. From that time on, from the 4th century AD, it was this Muhammad was employed by many of the church fathers. Here's some examples.
So the arguments are, no church fathers ever use Mahmed as a prophetic title or name. And I would argue this is a straw man argument. That isn't what we claimed.
This Muhammad was employed by many of the church fathers. Here's some examples. Oregon. So it's not a name. It's not a name, folk. It's a title.
I'm quite happy to back away from that and say, no, I shouldn't have said title. I should have probably just used the word adjective or noun or term or something like that. And
watch what he says here, though, guys. Listen to this.
Subsequently employed by St. Ambrose in the 4th century as a title for Jesus Christ. The Jews also referred to it in their reference, and what was interesting, by the 7th century, the Jews started using that title for their exilarchs. The exilarchs were those who were in charge of the seminary in what is today Baghdad. Arabic. So they have all been speaking Arabic, and they had always put Muhammad before their name.
Guys.
Did they?
Put Muhammad before their name. Muhammad ben Huziel. Muhammad ben David.
There's no Muhammad ben Uziel. There's no Muhammad ben David. What else?
Muhammad ben everyone. They have
Muhammad ben everyone. Guys, there's no Muhammad ben anything in any Jewish source relating to what he's talking about.
Wow.
You mentioned Jews in Baghdad using Mahmed as a title of endearment, specifically Mahmed bin Uziel and Mahmed bin Joseph. I've checked digitized Hebrew libraries in Hebrew and have not found any matches for those exact phrases. There are no rabbinic usages of the word Mahmed in the way you described. So my short answer is, I haven't ever claimed that we had evidence for that.
I think what they're referring to, and this is something that I have said in the past, you have said in the past, about a year to 2 years ago, we did say, and I remember even we did a video together where we thought that there were 5 exilarchs who had Mahmud before their name, and that these all 5 were in the 7th century. And we now no longer are saying that, because that was something that we had assumed back then. But then now that we've looked at the sources more carefully, we're now pulling back on that. The reference to Mahmud ben Husiel or Nehemiah ben Husiel or Mahmud ben David, we don't see any sources for that. We don't see any reference for that. We're now pulling back on that.
If it is true that they'd backtracked on that claim, how is it that it was put out only a month ago to 1.3 million people?
Put Mahmud before their name. Mahmud ben Huziel. Mahmud ben David.
July 10th,
I'm not saying that Kai and Daughter of Christ are peers, and that they're at the same level that we have, because we've been working on this for many, many years.
All right, guys, so that's what we'll be checking out tomorrow. AP said I just have to share the link and pin the message, and that it will pick it up if a bunch of people click on it. But then someone said no.
There is a redirect.
Yeah,
there is a redirect system built into YouTube, but you'd have to have permission from Modern Day Debate to be able to redirect in that fashion. So pinning the link should be good.
Yeah, pinning should be, because if Modern Day, I didn't have to approve it the other night when Rattlesnake raided mine. So we'll try this right now, and so everyone go ahead and click on the link that I have pinned, and we'll see if this actually works as a raid. This is heading over to the AP's debate, which should be starting right now, and this is going to be a debate on whether Islam is true. So everyone click on the link right now.
Good question.
Or else.
Good question.
What's that?
I said that was a good question, whether Islam is true or not.
Oh, yeah.
I'm already over there. I've already left.
Yeah.
It just
Islam,
looked like
Islam is true. As long as you agree with Jay that it's actually Christianity. All right, let's go check it out. I'm clicking on it now. What's going on? All right, I'm going to cut this live stream. Everyone click on that. Or else. Catch y'all later.
God bless.